Yeah, they're going to try and swing this on DSA candidates and stuff like that when Graham Platner is not endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America. The established Democrats are going to use this as an opportunity to just like do whatever the they can. PBS is sponsored by you, the viewers, for you, the viewers. Tomorrow's news today.
It's time to talk about Graham Platner now, because for those of you who don't know, Graham Platner is this Bernie-crat candidate that came out of the gate swinging, anti-war, anti-Israel, pro-Medicare for all, but had a checkered past, right? A lot of red flags in his background, and he was doing phenomenally well against Janet Mills, the current governor of Maine. He defeated Janet Mills thoroughly, handily. Janet Mills dropped out, as a matter of fact, when the primaries took place. And here's the thing: a lot of establishment Democrats hate this guy, right? A lot of people in the pro-Israel side hate this guy. And in the past, he had been the recipient of a lot of attacks. Many of these attacks were somewhat silly. Some of them were unsubstantiated. And the criticisms that he should have received were obviously criticisms about his background, his investment into, his numerous tours and then going back into Blackwater, things like that. Those were red flags for me. The Nazi tattoo was a red flag for me. Those weren't red flags for the average American, and certainly not the average Mainer. But then the New York Times came out with this reporting, right? The New York Times came out with this report, and they had said this is an unbelievable allegation that's about to come out. They highlighted the report as though there was a serious sexual assault allegation. And when the New York Times report came out, it turns out that was not the case, right? They looked at his background. They interviewed 7 of Graham Platner's former partners. Most of them actually had nothing but nice, kind words to say about him. And 2, one of the 2 said that there was one moment that she did not feel great about, and then the other was a Republican operative that said Graham Platner had done the classic like male manipulator, domestic abuser moment, the risk control, right? This article seemingly is bad. This article seemingly is different, okay? There's a Politico article out. Now, I don't know how the New York Times missed this. I don't know how the New York Times did not get this information. By no means am I defending Platner, but American voters' cognitive dissonance about voting for rapists is frustrating, aka Trump's fine, but for Mainers, but Platner is not. It should always be a disqualifier across the board. Yes. And Politico piece, I assume we'll get into it, but we'll look at it now, right? Platner also immediately, because of the severity of the allegations, it seems that they were ready for the Platner camp actually canceled a bunch of events. I think they said the wife was sick or something. I don't know. So let's take a look at the latest Graham Platner. New York Times knew this, but the conversation was off the record. Okay. Woman who dated Graham Platner says he sexually assaulted her. The Maine Democrat denied the allegations and said any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically untrue. A woman who dated Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Platner says he forced her to have sex with him nearly 5 years ago, despite her repeated objections, an allegation Platner denies. The woman, a 41-year-old Maine resident named Jenny Rassicott, detailed the allegation, the alleged incident to Politico in 3 interviews over the past 2 weeks. Politico also spoke with a man Rassicott dated and confided in the years after the alleged incident, and reviewed documents, including emails between Rassicott and her therapist and messages between Rassicott and acquaintance. That is curtains. Okay. Mossad Pateraz? No. That is the trifecta. Okay. That is the trifecta of a reliable allegation. That's holy shit. Okay. Personal firsthand testimony to a friend, a close confidant, back from way before Graham Platner ever fucking ran for Congress. Are you kidding me? and then also direct testimony from a therapist, that is very different. Very different from a Republican operative coming out and being like, oh yeah, I had a touch and go moment with Graham Platner. I wouldn't even say he like physically abused me or anything. That's very different. There is not direct testimony from a therapist. No, sorry. Emails between Rassicot and her therapist. Okay. Emails that are dated. That seems a little bit different than previous statements and previous things that were talked, previous discussions around Graham Platner's misconduct or alleged misconduct. Okay. What I don't understand is why the New York Times didn't report it, but apparently the Political article gets into that. So we'll take a look at it. So, reviewed documents including emails between Rassicot and her therapist and messages between Rassicot and an acquaintance whom she warned against getting involved with Platner years before he ran for office. Rassicot says she had an on and off relationship with Platner, who is now the Democratic Senate nominee in Maine, for more than 2 years before he entered her rural Maine home uninvited one night, in late 2021, deeply intoxicated and forced himself on her while she repeatedly told him to stop. She said she cut off contact with him. So this is one of the two. This is, Rassicot is the other. New York Times, if you recall, interviewed 7 former girlfriends of Graham Platner. There was one that said she had a bad moment with Graham Platner. This, I think, expands on what that bad moment was with a very significant allegation. Trigger warning. I will be reading out depictions of sexual assault from this point on. She said she cut off contact with him after telling him the encounter was not consensual. I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful of me, she said. I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice. Platner denied the allegations. These allegations are troubling, serious, and false. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically untrue, he said in a statement. Rassicot previously described reckless and unsettling behavior by Platner to the New York Times, but she says she didn't go public with the specific assault claim because she didn't want to be known as a rape victim. Rassicot said she later felt compelled to go public about her experience because the reaction to the Times story was dominated by controversy about another woman, Lindsay Fifield, who alleged Platner mistreated her and faced attacks because of her ties to the Republican Party. Contacted by Politico, Fifield stood by the allegations she made to the Times and declined to comment further. My part of the story was just a read over, Rassicot said in an interview, and the story was just Lindsay and the accusations of her being politically motivated. Rassicot said she was torn over coming forward in part because she agrees with Platner politically. One of the reasons I didn't come forward sooner was the huge moral conflict that I had between supporting his politics but not supporting him as a person, she said. I just want the truth out there. I just want people to have the whole scope of who he is as a person. In a statement, the Platner campaign reiterated his denial and accuses critics of trying to drive him out of the race. These allegations are very serious and Graham vigorously denies them. They are also coached and coordinated by out-of-state establishment operatives. For a year, opponents of this campaign have thrown everything they can at Graham, calling him a Nazi, a war criminal, and a communist. None of it has been true, and this is no different. It is not a coincidence that this story comes a week before the ballot deadline, just as the previous false allegations came a week before the primary. Graham began this campaign to fight for a Maine where everyone is treated with dignity and where Mainers are put first, and no amount of desperate smears will stop this movement from seeing that vision through. What do you mean audio? What's wrong with the audio? Platner, an oysterman and political newcomer when he launched his Senate campaign last August, easily won the Democratic primary last month to face GOP Senator Susan Collins in one of the nation's most highly watched Senate races. His remarkable rise has been tainted by controversies including offensive online comments and allegations of past mistreatment of women. He has not previously been accused of sexual assault. So here's the thing. Okay? Here's the thing. This is a serious accusation of the highest order, and it has all of the hallmarks of a verifiable accusation. Okay? Conversations in the past, far before Graham Platner came on the scene as a political operative, is a fairly reliable way to verify these accusations. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. Okay? Like, as you guys know, my policy on this is, believe women doesn't mean reflexively assume that all women are incapable of telling a lie or anything. It just means like don't reflexively disbelieve women, right? And contemporaneous communications is huge, especially if they are before he was in politics. Exactly. Central Committee is correct on this. It's a huge part of this. Okay. I assume that they will explain as to why the New York Times didn't get into this, but here's the other side of the story. Okay. I believe this accusation. I believe this allegation. Let me just make that very clear, especially because, once again, there are other friends with correspondence from before Graham Platner became a known entity, right? That's very important because you're not actively seeking to rat fuck a person if that person is not a political operative at all, right? Like, that's a random oyster fisherman. Okay? It's a random oyster fisherman at that point in fucking Maine. The timing of this, on the other hand, is, once again, fucked up. The timing of the drop is in the column of rat fucking, but the accusations are certainly real. Okay? Do with that information what you will, but the accusations, they are as credible as it is going to get. Okay? Unless the correspondence between Rassicot and her friend is not from back then, or the other partner that Rassicot had, which I have no reason to believe that that's the case, for the record. Okay? It still ultimately lends itself to a verifiable and credible accusation. Both the therapist and the friend refused to comment. This needs receipts. So let's continue. Is this rat fucking if they're giving him time to drop out, I guess? Well, we'll get into that in a second. The Iraq and Afghanistan war veteran has linked some of his behavior to mental health struggles and alcohol abuse, but he says he's changed and has denied previous claims that he was abusive to women. Rassicot told Politico she connected with Platner on the dating app Bumble in 2019 and had consensual relations with him prior to the night he allegedly assaulted her. That night in late 2021, she said she had exchanged text messages with him and told him not to come over, saying she wasn't in the mood for company. Later that evening, she said she realized when he heard a sound on the stairs that he had let himself into her house, which was unlocked. Platner came up the stairs, Rassicot said, to where she was on a couch. He got on top of her, kept grabbing her, she said, while she repeatedly told him to stop and that she wasn't interested. Rassicot said she smelled of alcohol in his breath and believed he was almost blackout drunk because Platner kept ignoring her protests and continued to grab her after knocking over an antique sewing kit, spilling small needles everywhere. I'd been telling him these words, no, don't, she recalled. And the look on his face, realizing what was happening, I just realized that, like, I'm in a situation where there's no consent here, she said. Rassicot said she tried to separate herself from Platner by telling him she couldn't be in that room anymore, after which he followed her to the bedroom and had sex with her against her will. She said he also ejaculated inside of her despite her telling him not to, as she was not using birth control at the time. Oof. Oh, that's brutal. She went to clean herself up, she said, and when she returned, Platner had fallen asleep. She contemplated waking him up to kick him out, but worried he could hurt someone driving in the state that he was in. The following morning, she said, Platner tried to put his arm around her, and she pushed him away. She said she asked him whether he remembered what had happened the previous night. According to Rassicot, Platner said he didn't remember. Rassicot said she told him to leave and never contact her again. Rassicot said she waited several weeks until she got her period to ensure she wasn't pregnant, then sent Platner a private message on Instagram saying that the encounter was not consensual and she did not want to hear from him ever again. Rassicot had no further contact with him after that, she said. Rassicot said she later deleted all of her text and social media correspondence with Platner as she tried to move on from the assault, and said she has not been able to recover the Instagram messages she sent him about the incident. In the weeks after the alleged assault, Rassicot says she considered going to the police but struggled with shock and confusion about what had happened to her and did not file a police report. Even as time passed, she said she felt uncomfortable potentially telling a police officer about such a personal experience and feared retaliation from Platner. At first, she confided only in her therapist, who she continues to see. Razagos showed Politico recent emails with her therapist in which Razagos explained she was talking to the media about her relationship with Platner and said the sexual assault rape using an abbreviation for sexual assault. In the message, Razagos was not ready to go public and was seeking help corroborating her account in conversations she was having with the reporters on condition of anonymity. Her therapist responded that Razagos shouldn't have to speak publicly about a traumatic incident in order to be believed, without referencing details of any particular incident. Rasico, the T is silent. Rasico, okay. Yeah, not seeking, not going to the police is perfectly normal in situations like this, for the record, just so you guys understand. So they don't have, the therapist who Politico agreed not to name at her request declined to comment when reached on Monday. So, Rasico also shared details about the alleged assault to the man she dated after Platner, who she began dating in 2022. The man, who was granted anonymity out of concern for his personal privacy, told Politico that Rasico had told him in bits and pieces about a bad experience with Platner before confiding the full details of what happened in 2023. His account of what Rasico told him about the incident matched what Rasico told Politico. Okay. Rasico shared with Politico a series of private Facebook messages she exchanged with an acquaintance in 2023, about a year and a half after the alleged assault and well before Platner launched his political career, in which she cautioned the acquaintance against getting involved with Platner. In the messages, Rasico says she had ended up in a bad situation with him, describing Platner as a consensually careless and saying he doesn't listen to you when drunk. Reached out by Politico, the acquaintance said she received the messages but declined the comment. Politico granted her anonymity at her request to protect her privacy in her main community. What's his deal? Should I not fix him up with my friend, assuming he's single? He can be charming and funny, and he's a decently intelligent person, but he's not all bad. But I ended up in a bad situation with him, and I will just very politely call him consensually careless at times. When drunk, plus PTSD. I knew about the PTSD. He lies also. Forces himself on people. Wait, what? That's the cutoff? There's more, click the arrow. Oh. No, this is the earlier. I saw your post about oysters the other day. I feel morally obligated to warn you if you were anything more than just friends with Graham. But if you're not, then I'll just shut up for now and give you the scoop sometime, lol. Just friends. Would love the scoop, though. Is he still engaged? I was working on fixing on a friend. Oh, I have no idea. With who? Oh, a girl. I think her name is Jen from like the Rockland area. I don't know. I haven't heard of anyone. He was as of last summer that I know of, but also my timeline's a little sketch. So maybe it was the summer before. But either way, they've been on and off, but then I was told they got engaged. Yeah, COVID totally messed up my timeline for everything. What's his deal? Should I not fix him up with my friend, assuming he's single? He lies also. Okay, so here is they were out of order. I don't know why the fuck Politico put it out of order like this. God damn it. A bunch of fucking boomers, I guess. Forced himself on people. One thing that grossed me out after him and I had dated was that I saw his profile on OkCupid, and that site asked a lot of questions. And one of the questions was, if your partner told you they had over 100 sexual partners, what would your response be? And his response was, that's not that many. So that super grossed me out, thinking he's probably slept with a ton of people. Doesn't listen to you when drunk, ... Yeah. So that's corroboration. That's backing up her, previous assessment. But I don't know what she says. I don't know what the other lady says after this. And then I don't know what her response is afterwards. But Politico also spoke with a friend Rasico had told about the alleged assault last summer, shortly after Platner launched his campaign. The friend, to whom Politico granted anonymity due to fear of social and professional backlash, recalled Rasico telling her about the incident, including that Platner had been very drunk and wouldn't take no for an answer. Rasico said she was contacted by the New York Times in the spring and shared off the record that Platner had assaulted her. She told the Times that she had some positive memories of her relationship with Platner, but thought he did not respect women and had cut off contact with him after an incident in 2021 when Platner had come over drunk. But the Times article stated that Rasico declined to elaborate about what had happened, only describing his behavior as reckless and unsettling. A spokesperson for the Times declined to comment. After the publication of the Times report, Rasico connected with Cheyenne Hunt, a progressive Democratic lawyer who founded the nonprofit Reckoning Action, which launched earlier this year to fight misogyny. Hunt, who had endorsed Platner last fall but renounced her support for him after the Times article. So I remember this. This is the random lady who was like this is the random lady who came out and was like, I hate Graham Platner and stuff like that. And I initially thought that it was because of some potential foreign intervention. It turns out it was because of this story. Hunt, who had endorsed Platner last fall, renounced her support for him after the Times article, previously supported women who came forward with assault allegations against former Representative Eric Swalwell earlier this year, prompting him to drop out of the California gubernatorial primary and resign from Congress. NBC News previously reported that Hunt was working with multiple women who had past relations with Platner. Hunt connected Politico to Rasico. Reckoning Action exists to confront misogyny in American life in all forms and manifestations, including in bad actors being elected to positions of power, Hunt said. We became aware of the allegations before ever being connected with Jenny and have been in contact with multiple women with really troubling allegations, and it just became clear that this is someone who is not fit to hold public office. After the Times report last month, Platner had said that allegations of physical misconduct were simply not true, and his allies seized on Fifield's conservative political affiliations to suggest that her allegations against him in the Times were motivated by politics. I still stand by what I said about Fifield, by the way, especially considering that she spent a good deal of time not just like being a Republican operative, but specifically defending Brett Kavanaugh against those very real allegations. Brett Kavanaugh then also turned around and literally denied women bodily autonomy. Like, hundreds of millions of women on U.S. soil were impacted by Brett Kavanaugh's lies. So I will once again stand by my previous statements on that story. This is a different situation, I think. Like, here's the thing. This is as airtight as it's going to get as far as allegations goes, right? As far as allegations goes, this is fairly airtight, okay? And it's not even because if you remember, I said this about Fifield as well. If you recall in my commentary on the Fifield allegations, I said if there was corroboration at the time from friends of Lindsay Fifield, it wouldn't matter whether or not she was a Republican operative, right? If you recall, that's what I said. This seems to me like there is corroboration. Now, the only thing that would be potentially, the only thing that would be in defense of Graham Platner here, which is, it seems, the allegations that seem super credible and indefensible, would be if there was financial, if there was any sort of financial entanglement between a friend, but it doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, it's very, very unlikely. You know what I mean? Just so you guys understand. And the reason why I'm taking this position is to show you that there is a lot of veracity to these claims. Like even in the most heavily scrutinized version of events, in order for this allegation to be untrue, would only happen if this experience is real and she felt uncomfortable by this experience, understandably, because this is, clear-cut date rape under the influence of alcohol, right? But she previously she felt conflicted about it, maybe confided in her friends, maybe confided in her therapist, worked through it, and then after the fact, and breaking and entering as well, which is, not the main point here, obviously. The violation of consent of someone's bodily autonomy in the process of a date rape is probably, it's a breaking and entering is also another violation of consent, but nowhere near as significant as rape. For this to be untrue, she would have had to been slandering him in 2023 because no. This is much worse than the allegation that Fifield made. That's why I'm saying it's credible 100%, right? No. What I'm saying is I don't think it's disputed that Graham Platner actually violated this person's consent. There's no dispute there at all. Okay? None. Because I mean, it's ridiculous, right? It would be totally fucking ridiculous, bro. It's just rape, not date rape. I mean, date rape is rape, chatters. There's no distinction. I mean, it's just rape. It's violent sexual assault. So here's the thing. What I was trying to say is this definitely happened, right? For this to be something that she's like reconsidering, regardless of whether or not it happened, because that is not in dispute at all. But for her to like reconsider and then come out right now, the only thing that would tarnish the credibility of this the victim here would be if there was like any additional coaching or something, or if like outside groups came in and were like, hey, this is a serious allegation, you should definitely come out and speak on it. And even then that happens at times, because it takes a lot of courage for victims to come out in instances where they're accusing someone of sexual assault, especially when the person that they're accusing of sexual assault is now running for Senate and is a fairly popular candidate, right? So no matter what, this seems very, very reliable. And it doesn't even matter if there's it doesn't even, like, there would need to literally be like money exchanged. Okay. There would need to have been money exchanged literally by like an outside group or something for this to come across as in any way, shape, or form like a potential rat fucking operation, and not someone who is reconsidering the experiences that they went through and the very real allegations of sexual assault. Okay. Once again, I'm trying to give you the most critical lens here as someone who definitely believes Rasico's firsthand account here, especially because, like I said, contemporaneous conversations from back then with other people, especially before Graham Platner became like a known political figure, it's consistent with true testimony. Okay. Anyway. Wow. Yeah, she even said she still agrees with his politics. Like, it's I mean, that doesn't even matter. Let's be real. Like, guys, I need you to understand something, okay? From my perspective, I looked at Lindsay Feefield's testimony, and what did I tell you? Her politics are secondary in this, even though it was directly related to the Brett Kavanaugh situation and doing PR for Brett Kavanaugh, which obviously makes her a less credible accuser. However, the real reason, as I repeatedly told you back then, was that there was no contemporaneous conversations. There were no conversations that Lindsay Feefield had had with her friends about Graham Platner, beyond being like, oh yeah, he's a bit of a rough shot. He's a bit of a rough guy. There was never something as clear cut as Lindsay Feefield confiding in a friend, or confiding in a new partner, or going to therapy. Like, there was no secondhand testimony that you could go to. And I said at the time, if there was, that would mean that this is a credible accusation regardless. If there was at the time a credible accusation, regardless of her background as a political operative, that would be a credible accusation nonetheless. On MS Now last month, after the New York Times report, Platner denied claims that he had physically mistreated women, anything alleging physicality, anything alleging that I knew my tattoo was. These are statements of someone who's politically motivated. He He told MS Now, alluding to unrelated allegations about a tattoo resembling a Nazi symbol. Platner had the tattoo resembling a Nazi symbol covered up last fall and said he had not known what the symbol meant. Rasico said she was bothered by Platner's public denial that he had been physical towards women. I know that he's capable of putting his hands on women, she said, so I don't believe that to be the truth. So that's the Politico reporting. Now let's get to... Great suit. Your suit arc must be permanent, I think. Thank you. Not the point. Graham Platner came out with a statement after this article came out.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporations, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built.
What is this? When did you / what made you change your stance on this after the news broke a few weeks ago, during which you downplayed it? Did you read the Politico article where the victim literally said she did not feel comfortable revealing the full extent of Graham Platner's actions? You know, this is an entirely new article. This is the same victim with actual allegations. I did not yet. So why did you come in here with this assessment then? Are you okay? This new article came out an hour ago. This new article actually has like verifiable and very credible allegations of sexual assault. The previous article, which featured the same victim, did not have these allegations. And what's interesting about it is that the New York Times did not report on it. It was a choice that she had made. From what I understand, there's going to be a story beyond the choices that the media made. New York Times simply called it unsettling behavior. That was Rasico's statement on the record. Very different. Unsettling behavior can be a wide range of things. Lots of centrists blaming you today for Graham Platner. Out of all of the crop of left populist candidates, Graham Platner is the one left populist candidate that I have not done any campaigning with. It's the one left populist candidate that I have shown scrutiny towards at times. Incredible. Pills Mafia till the bitter end. Okay, I'm not going to joke right now. Anyway. Yeah, rape is just a tool for quote-unquote leftists to weaponize against the streamers they hate the most. Fuck these online losers. I know.
The largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus on defeating Susan Collins. So,
this might be an unfair question, but I would like to know what you think should be done if Platner drops out and if there's still a road to go for Maine. I mean, I think it's fucking cooked. I think it's cooked. I think he probably will drop out. And I don't know what else to fucking say about it other than holy shit, Susan Collins. I mean, talk about a person that just... This video is like 95% pablum, by the way, just so you know. Yeah, I mean, he fucking came out of the gate swinging with the denial. If Platner drops out, his hardcore supporters would be insanely pissed and Collins will absolutely win. Any replacement will be seen as an establishment stooge. Yeah, if Platner drops out, it has to be a fucking... It has to be a commie. Chris Rabb being skeptical when questioned about Platner a few weeks ago is just so justified right now. AOC staying away from the Graham Platner campaign comes across as, fairly... I mean, it just looks very different in hindsight. Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of red flags that I also pointed to. This is beyond red flags, though. This is irredeemable. I said it even back then. I said it even before the New York Times report came out, where I said, like, look, if there's sexual assault, and it's over, it's fucking irredeemable. It's unacceptable. And it's true. It remains to be the case. Yeah. Washington Reporter exclusive. Graham Platner to drop out of main Senate race, giving Democrats time to replace him is what they're looking for. Susan Collins, a supporter of the rapist POTUS, is going to win because the alternative is a rapist to our society is so incredibly fucked now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a clear cut. This is not like any of the other allegations. This is not on shaky ground. This is as open and shut as it gets. Okay? Apologize to everyone who's been warning you about Graham Platner from the beginning, you performative coward. Yeah, okay, dude.
Regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people.
I love when, what's funny? I love when people go, hey, this ginormous incident with significant accusations of sexual assault took place that's shaking up national news. How can I make this about my least favorite Twitch streamer? Are you okay? How are you any different than the fucking weirdo Epstein fans who literally saw October 7 and then watched as Israel started bombing Gaza, immediately killing more people than October 7, and went to work to be like, this is our opportunity to make sure that we compile every single thing that Hasan says so we can make this a national story later down the line. If you see, incidents taking place of national consequence and your first thought is, how do I make this about a fucking Twitch streamer? You're not going to make it. Shut the fuck up. You need help.
That I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary history, voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class. They voted for hope, for change, to take back our economy, to take back our power.
We're not making it about our least favorite Twitch streamer. We're asking for some accountability since you absolutely give positive coverage to this guy after knowing what he did in the Middle East. You're supposed to be on our side, but you run cover for people you know are war criminals, even though sexual assault is where you draw the line. I'm gonna move on from this. Okay? Please shut the fuck up. Please.
And to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me, and I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated, and we will use every tool at our disposal to do so. As Maine goes, so goes the nation.
Genuinely, he's saying that Platner's entire defense of this is just nuh-uh. He's saying that there were a coordinated smear campaign and coaching, but if that was the case, he put that shit on the limelight yesterday, instead nothing. Yeah. Does your community seriously believe that being in the military means automatically you're a war criminal? No. But there are some in my community that does, definitely. There are definitely people on the left who automatically go, oh, you touched a machine gun, you were in the American military. The American military is an imperialist force. You have done war crimes. It's understandable why people arrive at that conclusion, for the record, because many who do active duty combat, who see active duty combat, engage in things like that. My scrutiny of this, of Graham Platner's background, came from his 4 tours plus Blackwater, but it wasn't enough for me to say, like, this is I'm pulling out of this. I wanted to and made the effort to try to interview him specifically on that, and never got the opportunity to do so. for the record, they were very dodgy about. They were initially interested, but then when I offered my scrutiny very publicly, the campaign was somewhat dodgy about it, and I never got to actually ask them personally about some of these questions that I had. But if you recall, one of the things that I had said on a Pod Save America podcast was a comparison between Abdullah al-Sayed and Graham Platner. Let me see if I can find it. This was during the Pod Johns conference that I went to. And I think it's important to bring that up right now. What is it? It was Alex Wagner's podcast.
Hi, everyone. On election night last Tuesday,
Yeah. Let me see if I can find it from the transcript. Wait, how do you fucking look at the transcript? Oh, here.
I got to ask you, because we were talking about Nazis in the left and the right versus the left, but like, do you have thoughts on Graham Platner and his tattoo?
Oh my God. I don't even know where to begin with that one. So, Graham Platner is a very unique case, at least from my perspective, because he is a through and through Bernie-crat, right? Like, he is a Bernie hand-selected pick who was running for office, and right out of the gates, he was like, I'm anti-Israel. I don't think we should be giving weapons to Israel. I don't think we should be doing anything with Israel if they're going to continue doing a genocide, right? Like, and that was a unique position. And then on top of that, he was pro-Medicare for all and numerous other Bernie-style positions. And what was interesting to me about that whole saga is that in spite of him being like very obviously a grunt force, machine gunner for the Marines, which are sometimes known as crayon eaters for good reason. He went on shore leave in Croatia and Split and got the most obvious Nazi tattoo, the third most common Nazi symbol, a Totenkopf, on his chest. In spite of that, Maynard seemingly didn't care about that situation at all. And I think that's a really interesting moment in American politics for where the liberal base is moving.
Yeah.
Because for far too long, I think the organs that work alongside the Democratic Party that are like liberal adjacent or, left adjacent, whatever you want to call it, have often weaponized a version of identity against the left flank, right? While simultaneously telling their audiences that electability actually revolves around moderates. Moderate positions are how you win. Yeah. And this is actually a real battle that is still currently taking place within the Democratic Party. The Welcome Pack piece that came out, the Welcome Pack report that came out was, again, another version of this exact same thing. And I don't think liberals are responding to that electability argument, or rather, I think they think now, after failure from the moderates, especially the second failure against Donald Trump, again, an incompetent, monstrous fascist, they realize like, no, maybe the left flank, left populist position is the actual electability argument. And maybe we were deluded.
Well, but like, okay, so
they're giving a lot of grace to Graham Platner is what I'm saying.
Well, and I think Graham Platner has handled it basically as well as you can, which is another model of how the left can understand people's flaws and how you can own the mistakes you made in life and how they made you who you are today and arguably a better person. But like, just like, as you say, one of the top 3 Nazi tattoos, like, is that not fucked up? Like, what?
No, I think it is.
I mean, what? So, like, are liberals just becoming more okay with that? And like, is that a problem?
So
I don't know.
There's 2 things that I think about in that regard. I think that we'll see, because we saw it with Zohran Mamdani, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I want to talk to you about
a lot of liberals were very forgiving of like the faucet of misinformation and angry lines of attack that were completely, in my opinion, unjustifiable and outright racist at times. Like the notion that he is like a scary anti-Semite is honestly an incredibly permissible form of bigotry, like institutionally permissible form of bigotry. The assumption that like he's gonna be anti-Semitic, he's anti-Israel, he's Muslim. Come on, like, and these are very real fears. Like, we don't treat white supremacy in that same vein. Like, if someone were to say, as a white Christian, as many have, right? I think like desegregation is a real problem. I think that I don't want my children to live in a racial jungle. We would be like, okay, that's your problem. Like, you need to deal with that on your own. But in this circumstance, because, you know, Jews are also a marginalized identity in the United States of America, and there is a lot of historic violence towards Jewish people on the virtue of being Jewish, that there is this conversation that takes place where we place a lot of emphasis on whether or not there's this like broad majority of Jewish people that are truly terrified of Zohran Mamdani because he's seemingly or considered to be anti-Semitic. And I think that's genuinely a racist position to apply to someone like Zohran Mamdani. I think it's ridiculous. He's done nothing and said nothing that is even remotely anti-Semitic. And yet
he staked out a position on Gaza that is comports, that is not in favor of what Israel is doing, but that does not mean he is an anti-Semite.
And here, I'll give you an example. Sometimes I like to think about it as like, if Zohran was like a white Christian guy or a Jewish guy, and he was saying that, would these arguments stick?
Yeah.
Would there be this much? I mean, look at Grant Platner. He's a fucking Totem-Kov tattoo.
This is what I'm saying.
And even then, people are like not even making that argument, right?
Give him a pass.
So my point is like, that is institutionalized Islamophobia. There's a big part of it. I don't like to talk about it too much because it's like a lot of people tap out when they hear that and they're like, I don't want to hear this. Oh, whatever. Here we go again. But the reason why I'm saying it here is that like we shall see if the liberals are more forgiving of guys like Grant Platner because he's a white dude and they think that is like the primary version of electability for liberals in general?
Yeah.
Or is it because he came out of the gate swinging with very leftist, like left flank policies, and that's the reason why they're forgiving of him? And I think the contest I'm paying close attention to is Abdul El-Sayed, a person who has none of the red flags whatsoever, another person that basically has an infallible reputation and has actually more experience in politics as well. He's run for the governors. He failed to defeat. I think it was Whitmer that he failed to defeat on a Medicare for All campaign, and he is the real deal, right? And he's also another early Bernie pick. He's also anti-Zionist. We shall see if liberals are just as forgiving of a brown guy that is running on a very similar campaign to Graham Platner
without the tattoo.
Yeah, without the Nazi tattue, but he's a brown guy. Does that mean that it's like scarier? My point is a white dude with a Nazi tattoo.
I think we know the answer, don't we?
Well, I
think we know the answer.
No, I don't.
As a brown person, I think I know the answer.
No, I think that's defeatist, and that's I don't abide by that. I recognize that there's a hurdle, right? There's a hurdle. There's a higher threshold, but you can climb it, and you can make up for that higher threshold by instilling messaging discipline and then not stepping on any landmines to the best of your ability, and also just. Are you proud of yourself for supporting an unrepentant mass murdering rapist? Did you just not watch the video? Did you not hear the words that I literally, even back then, focusing on over and over again. This is November 13th, 2025, before many of you knew even who Abdul El-Sayed was, or were barely learning about Graham Platner, where I say, look, this guy has a lot of red flags, okay? But liberals are seemingly very forgiving of his red flags. Is that because of the populist messaging, or is that because he's a grunt force guy who is, thinking like a woke but acting like a chud, walking like a chud, thinking like a woke? Turns out he wasn't just thinking like a woke either. He was also thinking like a chud. Yeah, this was during the height of the Platner mania. The problem is people will now try to utilize the Graham Platner allegations to imply that like all Bernie crats are this way. Okay? To imply that all Bernie crats are like this. Stop acting like you weren't falling for him too. I mean, I told you honestly and sincerely, given the information that was readily available at the time, that regardless of my scrutiny, that he was a far better candidate than Janet Mills, who was pro-Israel, and a far better candidate than Susan Collins. Okay? Which is true. What are we talking about? But there's an amount, and there's also verifiable information. Like, for example, if there was verifiable information from his time at Blackwater, where he opened fire on a civilian car or something, or if there was verifiable information from his time in combat, and it wasn't pure conjecture or pure speculation on what he may or may not have done, right? That would be an entirely different conversation that we're having, or would have been having at the time. Okay? The same goes for the previous New York Times reporting on him being from the same victim who, to the New York Times, said that it was unsettling versus verifiable allegations of rape. If new evidence presents itself, then I'm going to change my perspective. It's that simple. Is it possible we see Maine voters shrug it off like before? No. No, I don't think so. Especially because it comes with a faucet of red flags and heightened tensions from before. I don't think all of those previous allegations actually. I don't think those previous allegations actually make this situation less credible. I think it makes it more credible. It lends credence to the previous allegations all of a sudden, because this is not just a random accusation with no additional evidence. This is a clear-cut instance of verifiable sexual assault allegations. It's completely irredeemable. Platner's source of strength was that people passionately committed to volunteer for him. On his campaign Discord, people are sharing their feelings of betrayal, heartbreak, and resignation. He has lost his base. It no longer seems like a question of whether he will drop out, but when, and whether his campaign, by virtue of an overwhelming primary win, will be able to influence who replaces him. I would go so far as to say that the timing of this is maybe not even potentially a rat fucking, but instead the timing of this is most likely so that there's an opportunity to swap out the candidate for the Democrats. Like, it lends even further credence to the fact that one of the accusers, the victim, Rasico, was someone who clearly is both wronged by Graham Platner, but was conflicted on revealing this information because there was like this higher priority in her mind that while she wanted to warn people about him, at the same time was worried about both the impact that might have on her well-being, because when this happens, when things like this happen, obviously, no one believes you. People attack you. Graham Platner is a very popular person at this point, like a person that has a lot of followers and a lot of fans. They're all going to come after you. You're worried about that. And then there's an even larger weight on your shoulders where you feel like you are now like in control over the Democratic Senate majority. Like, think about that. Like, that's huge. If this is, because when you are talking about the Democratic Senate majority, you're talking about potentially millions of people, hundreds of millions of people. Will the Democrats gain the Senate majority and be able to hold Trump accountable, be able to set up hurdles in front of Donald Trump? Like, that's a huge ordeal. That's why I was so critical of Jake Auchincloss for casting aside the Senate majority because he was worried about Graham Platner's perspective on Israel. It was fucking ridiculous at the time, right? Because that's huge. There are plenty of people I despise, even in the Democratic Senate, that I would never cast a vote against in order to build a reliable coalition against Donald Trump, to hold Trump accountable, right? Adam Schiff. I voted for Adam Schiff. He's my senator. He's a freak. He loves Israel. Not a great Democrat at all. And I voted for him. Why? Because you have to have some level of accountability against this administration. It's just something that you do. Being part of the military is a red line and war criminal of itself, as soldiers are actively part of the institution. The only way that can be supported is repented, and if they've renounced serving and advocate against it. Same with the IDF. Yeah. Okay, that's your standard. I have a different standard, okay? Like, no, being a part of the military is not a fucking red line, dude. And it's the same for IDF as well. I've already said this. It's entirely dependent on how you maneuver this landscape, okay? Yes, I get it, dude. You think everyone that's a part of the American military murdered children personally, directly. They ate the babies. I got it, okay? If we're having a conversation about the institution in and of itself, about anti-imperialism in and of itself, that's an entirely separate conversation. I hate having this back and forth with like 8 to 11 people that maintain this supposedly quote-unquote principled stance when we're having a conversation about fucking elections, okay? Please, this is a totally separate conversation. Okay? You're brilliant, you're morally righteous, you're pure. The best possible candidate is someone who the best possible candidate is always and forever going to be an art history PhD that went and worked at Starbucks and has your background. Suspiciously is identical to your lived experience. We got it. Someone who has spent most of their time reading theory. It's no person who has ever been a part of the American military is ever redeemable. You got it. Thank you. I've never wavered on this principle that someone's past is only indicative of who they are as a person now if it corresponds to their current behavior. Okay? But yeah, the comparison here that I made was between Graham Platner and Abdul al-Sayed all the way back in November 2025, where I had my skepticism, my scrutiny, and still maintained a position that he was far better than Janet Mills, given the positions that we knew. Okay? But what I said at the time was, were people in love with Graham Platner because he's a white guy? Or were people in love with Graham Platner because of the policies? That remains to be seen. Because the very same people that attack Graham Platner, who are now feeling vindicated, are still attacking Abdul al-Sayed. As a matter of fact, something very strange happened yesterday to one of my prominent haters, Sarah Longwell, who said, does anyone have the Sarah Longwell quote from yesterday? Oh, no, it was Shannon Watts. It wasn't Sarah Longwell. I apologize. It was Shannon Watts, who said, I will never support any candidate who proudly campaigns with Hasan Piker, to which Deep responded with, this is an endorsement of Graham Platner. To which she responded with, yes, Graham Platner is better than Abdul al-Sayed. Something along those lines. Shannon Watts, not Abdul al-Sayed. Probably the worst possible time to come out with an endorsement of Graham Platner over Abdul al-Sayed, a take that will live in infamy. Yeah, another one from the centrist. The difference between el-Sayed and Platner, and why Platner is a better candidate than el-Sayed is perceived as a far-left wacko. Platner is perceived as a military douche with a temper. Voters love douches. They hate socialists. Again, this is what happens when you literally define your worldview off of opposing me on whether or not you think that a candidate campaigning with someone like myself is indicative of their viability or not. Yeah, look, Shannon Watts endorses Graham Platner for Maine. He hasn't asked. Persuade me. I appreciate that he hasn't aligned himself with Hasan Piker. It's the one smart thing his campaign has done so far. Seems like you're trying to pivot as you never liked him. Didn't we already know he killed Afghan civilians? Seems like you're trying to pivot as you never liked him. No. I was willing to let my scrutiny of his background aside, given that he was far better than both Janet Mills at the time and also Susan Collins. His policies are what mattered to me. But there is certainly a level of things that you have definitely done that are verifiable and credible that I'm willing to forego my scrutiny over. And obviously, a verifiable sexual assault allegation goes past that standard. That's it. That's it. The lesson for the left, you should only ever run Muslims. I mean, this is a joke, but there is an advantage that comes along with running a Muslim candidate or a black candidate or a brown candidate. You have to overcome great fucking trials and tribulations to get to that point. Yes, you have to be an overachiever with an untarnished reputation. So yeah, it's kind of baked in, yes. They are held to a far greater standard, which was ironically the point that I was fucking making on that Pod Save America episode, making the comparison between Abdul Al-Sayed and Graham Platner. What is this? Wow, I love that it has to get to sexual assault for him to not be viable. Yes, of course. What are you talking about? You think that's not a significant accusation? If there was a significant accusation that was verifiable of a fucking direct war crime, then that would also be, again, relevant. Where's your Mexico shirt gone? I mean, I wore it yesterday. I'll wear it again in the future. CNN interviewed Platner's accuser as well. Wait, really? In an interview with CNN, Jenny Rasico, 41, said the attack occurred in the main town where she lived in 2021, 2 years after she and Platner began casually dating. The interview will be broadcast on The Lead with Jake Tapper. Rasico said one night in November and December 2021, Platner showed up drunk at her house. It's definitely over for the record. It's definitely over I think it's definitely over for Platner's campaign. I mean, if that wasn't clear, will he still win the primary? He already won the primary. What is this? You're going to call Hasan Piker the same names y'all called me or so? Rape is a hard line. Not sure why that's controversial. Hasan Piker on political Platner. This is curtains. That's the trifecta. Okay, that's the trifecta of a reliable allegation. It's holy shit. I believe this. This accusation. I believe this allegation. They now have a new goal since Platner isn't fighting it. Tar Morris Katz and invalidate left-leaning political operatives. I mean, listen. I need you guys to understand something, okay? Morris Katz and the Fight Agency are a very good ad agency, but they are an ad agency, okay? They are not a political organization. Morris Katz worked with Micah Lasher, okay? Micah Lasher is a massive supporter of Israel. Morris Katz and the Fight Agency, while I like the ads that they make, their job is to make ads. They will sometimes work with wonderful candidates and boost them, okay? And they will sometimes work with candidates that I don't agree with and I oppose, okay? This is entirely separate from the Democratic Socialists of America, okay? This is entirely separate from a political movement. They could potentially work with political movements that are aligned, even candidates that I like, even candidates that I work with, okay? But at the end of the day, it's just an ad agency. And I have made that very clear from the start. It doesn't mean anything. If anything, the person who is a movement builder that will be harmed from this association will be Bernie Sanders. Do you understand? I suspect that Graham Platner betrayed the trust of a lot of people, including probably the Sanders wing, Ro Khanna. Do you think Bernie knew about these before endorsing? Fuck no. Are you crazy? Wait, so the accusation is true? Rasico's testimony, especially given that there is conversations that she had with partners far before Graham Platner even ran for office, have the telltale signs of a reliable accusation. Okay, a real, verifiable, credible allegation of sexual assault. If there's corroboration, then what, like, that is, if you have corroboration, if you've talked to a therapist about it and you have like any evidence that you can point to, if you've talked to a friend about it at the time, that is the hallmark of a reliable allegation. That even lends credence to other accusations. Because one of the things that we went through the Me Too era, right? Believe women does not mean women are incapable of lying. Believe women means don't reflexively disbelieve women. And there are certain things that you can look at in an accusation that lends credence to it. Okay? One of the things that you can look at in an accusation that lends credence to it would be, are there other victims? Do they have similar experiences? Have any of the victims talked to someone else? Did they write in their diary at the time? Did they tell another person at the time? Right? Did they tell a therapist? Do they have a therapist? Do they tell a therapist? Rasico's testimony has the hallmarks of a credible rape allegation. It's impossible to overlook. Okay? The messages of him, like him being a dog or whatever, like him fucking around, talking to other women, all of that stuff is, it shows that someone is of not the highest moral character, but that's things that, that you can add on and people can make a decision on whether or not that means that this person has the best mindset or not. But this is something beyond that. Okay? And this is something that I made clear in the last batch during the New York Times reporting. In the New York Times reporting, I told you if there was like verifiable sexual assault, that would be irredeemable. This is verifiable sexual assault. It's irredeemable. They quote you in this new Politico article. Platner says he's taken on the time to reflect his candidacy. What did they quote me as? I didn't even give a quote to Politico, but I guess it's from the stream. This is Curtin's progressive commentator, Hasan Piker, said of Platner's candidacy while reading the article of to his Twitch audience. I believe this allegation. Fellow progressive commentator Emma Vigeland called the allegation immensely damaging while arguing that Platner had not been fully truthful during his past scandals. The Platner campaign insisted that nothing new was coming, and that was obviously not the truth. Just devastating, she said on X. I never trust the media completely, so why would I trust them when they have a story with no credible, verifiable evidence? This Politico story, even though the outlet Politico is obviously run by a person who is maybe a little bit biased, the article itself features actual reliable evidence. What is this? If you're going to start listening to women in the party, then stop listening to this vile misogynist who insisted we all blindly support an unvetted, unqualified, untrustworthy man. Okay, I'm going to quote retweet it and say, Shannon yesterday was saying she could support Platner over Abdul because Platner had not campaigned with me while Abdul had. Don't try to rewrite history, Shannon. You should be focusing on your energy to get Troy Jackson as a replacement. Anyway. Troy Jackson, Paige Louder, Shenna Bellows, Troy's DSA. What commie says? Thank you for the 20 gifted subs. So this means tomorrow all the pedophiles and rapists will be expelled from the Republican Party, right? No, of course not. That this would be a stupid metric. Susan Collins, 2028, new home. The Hasan Abi Twitch chat. I mean, no, this is not. You know what? I'm not even going to fucking. Heard you sponsor this amazing video. Austinox is always right. What is this? Oh, AOC says of Grand Platner, I haven't waded into that primary. She absolutely needs to stay 10,000 feet away from that race. Yeah, he was correct. It's so easy to see who Hasan supports. He goes to New York City. He goes to Denver. He phone banks for them. He fundraises for them. He did none of this with Grand Platner, but some of you only care about the words you hear from your computer screen. Yeah, I know. I also wanted to interview Grand Platner. I wanted to hear his own perspective in his own words early on, given the questions that I had about his background, about his perspective, and their campaign shied away from it. Their campaign shied away from it when they saw some of the things that I had said. And I was very open about it. I told you guys at the time. That doesn't mean I'm going to fucking lie to you and say that Grand Platner is not a better candidate than Janet Mills or a better candidate than Susan Collins before all of this new information came out. Suck my dick. You know what I mean? It's funny to think they considered you to be too controversial. I think part of it was because they thought that I would, hound him on certain things that they consider to be a weakness on the left flank. They didn't want any scrutiny from the left. According to your Redditors, you're not a part of the left. Guys. Who cares? Okay. Yeah, Desiree Townsend also has some information. Journalist who broke the story on Mitch McConnell's cardiac arrest says he's brain dead per her sources. We will continue with the story, obviously. Let me hold on. Let me go to fucking Fox News to see what they're doing. They're probably running a victory lap here for Susan Collins. And CNN as well. Jake Tapper, the lead, is probably going to be a big one because they're directly interviewing the person. I had to pee so fucking bad. Maine DSA supported Troy Jackson's campaign for governor. If Platner drops out, we have an opportunity to elect the new DSA senator out of nowhere. As people have said, the saving grace here is that there is a lot of Maine Dems waiting in line in the wings here who are very credible. Troy Jackson is the obvious one, but the governor candidate, Hanny Pingree, has 10 plus faves and has been leading her race by double digits. It could also be a full circle moment because her mother, Representative Shelley Pingree, lost the cons in 2002. She's a very different kind of politician, to say the least, but also one who ranked choice majority of the vote in the 72% Platner primary electorate. One of the problems with this, the Bernie endorsement is that they're going to use this as an opportunity to fuck Bernie up, dude. They are going to beat the shit out of Bernie for this, which I don't think is appropriate. I don't think is acceptable. I think it's unacceptable. But I think the establishment Democrats are going to use this as an opportunity. I mean, they're already fucking attacking me. And my level of involvement with Platner is non-existent. And they're fucking making it seem like I was the one who found him out of nowhere. So they will absolutely, both the right wing of the party and the far right, the Republicans, and certainly the wait, hold on. The far right, the Republicans, the fucking right wing of the Democratic Party are all going to use this as an opportunity to shit on Bernie Sanders and like left populists amongst their ranks. They're going to try to fucking hit this with like, they're going to try to be like, oh, this is just like Abdul or something when there's no comparison whatsoever, right? And they're nasty little perverts. they're gonna try and fucking swing this on DSA candidates and stuff like that when Graham Platner is not endorsed by the Democratic Socialists of America. All this stuff. There's gonna be a lot of like rat fucking, a lot of opportunities to just like the establishment Democrats are gonna use as an opportunity to just like do whatever the fuck they can. Hasan Piker turns on Platner, says he believes sexual assault accuser and predicts curtains for campaign. This kind of stuff makes me feel like this is a little bit of a rat fuck, but it's not. It's not. It's a real accusation. Like, it's not, but it's just like, it's a real accusation, but they are really using it. You know what I mean? Which is fair because it's a real fucking accusation. But like, holy shit, why are they like, what is this? Like, this is new. You know what I mean? This level of like immediate coverage, this level of immediate coverage to be like, see, everyone's doing it. He needs to leave immediately, which I agree with, but also at the same time, it's like kind of strange. Like, why the fuck would you focus on me on this issue? Like, look, Fox News is our enemy, right? So we have to ask ourselves, why is our enemy writing this? Do you know what I mean? Like, why do they care about the internal machinations of a Senate run? What is this? If you've lost Hasan Piker, oh my God. What? These people have such a fucking unbelievably stupid opinion of someone like myself. They just, like, they live in a totally separate planet, I think. The way Fox covers you, you'd expect a headline about you turning on a candidate to be a puff piece. Anyway, there's Platner's accuser was on CNN. We'll take a look at the clips. Let's take a look.
You're not coming forward because you have any political motivation.
No, not at all. That was actually one of the huge reasons that I didn't come forward and still struggled. Like, that was a huge moral conflict to feel like.
Because you'd like a Democrat to be in the Senate.
Yeah. I like the things that he speaks about. They're important. They're important to people. I'm one of those people.
But at the end of the day, you feel he's not being honest.
That's crazy that they unironically, I cannot believe that the RNC sincerely posted this, by the way. It goes to show they have no interest in the truth in any way, shape, or form. Democratic spokesman, which I'm not, what the fuck? Hasan Piker has endorsed Janet Mills in the main Senate race. Like, what part of this is even real? The DSCC will not invest in the main Senate race if Platner remains on the ballot. Yeah. It's kind of strange because it's like, on the one hand, it's valid, but also on the other hand, it's like they were so excited at the prospect of this happening. You know what I mean? So Platner drops out and we get a shit senator. I mean, Platner stays in and we get a shit senator too. I just don't know. I don't know what to do here. You know what I mean? Like, my conscience is obviously saying like it's over, right? But also at the same time, it's like the fucking Republican Party is going to get away with this. Like, how is this possible? How is this fucking possible? Graham Platner can be replaced on the ballot if he withdraws in the next week. If he does, Maine Democrats would face an uncertain 2-week race to choose a replacement. God, we have to push for the Troy Jackson guy, former president of the Maine Senate. Ms. Mills is seen as less likely to be selected. She did not respond to messages. Troy Jackson is DSA, Bernie endorsed. It's got to be him, right? Yeah, why would Platner seek public office knowing reporters are going to be everywhere and this crazy stuff's going to come out? Your buddies from high school, dudes you were with in the war, your exes, reporters are going to be hitting them up, or they're going to be hitting reporters up. You really thought they wouldn't find out that you're a drunk? They can't keep your hands to yourself? Arrogant, stupid fool. Yeah. Lamau, no. Mills is going to get it. Come on. No good outcomes here. Yinzer? I hope not. I got another plan besides Troy Jackson. Miss Rachel? Okay, guys, let's be fucking serious, please. Like, cool, you seriously wounded one of your best chances to unseat a GOP senator, humiliated your wife and family, made yourself a pariah, and for what? Just totally impossible for me to understand that kind of mentality. I mean, I don't know if it's narcissism. Like, I don't know what the fuck it is. Trump has multiple sexual assault allegations and a rapist. The RNC doesn't give a fuck. One party is okay with rape. Yes. And I think that's definitely something that we should be consistently talking about. We should consistently hammer that point over and over again. It's not even about like moral consistency, intellectual honesty. Nobody gives a shit about that. Obviously, it's politics, baby. No one cares about it, right? So from my perspective, I think like we should always reassert, regardless of where this goes, we should always remind people that like Trump has fucking multiple credible rape accusations. He's gotten destroyed in the court. He's dropping out. Yeah, this is Washington Reporter. I don't know how valid this is, but I suspect he will drop out. Are the main voters under the comments section? The establishment is threatened. Good, we're on the right path. It's a bit weird, the timing of this. AIPAC sounds like she just got hired. Sounds like a coordinated smear campaign. Oh my God. This is the real truth. It feels, I mean, it's too, here's the thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's impossible. It doesn't matter. Even if the main voter, even if a fuck ton of main voters were like, nah, I'm still riding with him, it wouldn't matter. Because it's over. There's no way out of that. Bro, they're cooking you on left Twitter. Brother, I need you to understand something seriously. Okay? 11 hammer and 6. I don't like when you yell at Chad. You could have said that nicer. I'm going to try really hard not to be mean at you, so I'm just going to give you a minute off instead, and we're going to move on.
A disturbing new report published in the last hour about Graham Platner is shaking up the crucial U.S. Senate race in Maine. Politico has new bombshell reporting from a woman who dated Graham Platner, who says Platner forced her to have sex with him nearly 5 years ago, despite her repeated objections. From that reporting, the woman, a 41-year-old Maine resident named...
We can't go MAGA and just brush aside rape. What the fuck? No, I'm not saying we're brushing it aside. I'm not. What I'm saying is whether enough Mainers decide to brush it aside or not doesn't matter. It's over, right? Because it'll be a far too close of a race regardless. It would be far too close of a race with no guarantees of victory. As a matter of fact, a guarantee of defeat. Even if they were to fucking go beast mode and be like, I don't care, I don't support it. Like this could be potentially like a pivot point, a turning point for the way that maybe we misunderstand like exactly how much appetite people have for change, that they don't even give a shit, right? So the full CNN interview's out. Okay, we'll just watch that. So it doesn't. Like, even if this is a turning point in the same way that, like, Candace Owens dropped a fucking bomb on Discourse when she came out and was like, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And then everyone was like, oh, my God, that's true. Like, even if this was a similar situation where it turns out Mainers don't give a fuck, it still doesn't matter because there's no shot he would win. Platner is an example of both a failure of the Dem establishment to field a competent candidate and the consequences of progressive populism untethered from an organization like DSA that can responsibly vet and develop cadre candidates over years to run for office. Yeah, it's the truth of all time. It's the truth nuke. The Platner situation is more the result of the Democratic Party trying to clear the field for Mills than anything else. There was such a demand for a progressive anti-Israel campaign that people look past the obvious flaws. Yeah. After one allegation, if that's true, then we can never win. Come on, man. It's not just one fucking baby allegation. It's not like he was... First of all, he had 1 million allegations, and there wasn't anything that reached the standard of rape until now, and that's one rape allegation. A credible rape allegation. That's, that's beyond the pale. It's totally beyond the pale. I've been saying this since the Nazi tattoo this is all the fault of those who plucked the jarhead out of thin air and slapped him onto a left populist platform conveyor belt. You want to know the real fucking crazy situation here? I think he's still like that's his real opinions. You have to remember, just because someone is in agreement with you and sees the world in the same way that you do doesn't mean that they're a good person. Like I don't think his opinions are fake and he's just like playing the role of a left populist. I think that was genuinely him. I think if he didn't have the Blackwater, the Totenkopf, the fucking numerous PTSD related / drunk rape accusations, like he would be a wonderful fucking candidate. Sorry, but insisting Platner is just a normal guy who accidentally joined Blackwater and does locker room talk or whatever means you have quite a few Hitler particles and you should probably go get that checked out. Fucking Stephen King defending Platner. Yeah, anyway, here, let's look at the Bulwark comment section. Jesus Christ. 50,000 more allegations and scandals that make it the president to be a cult. I guess he should have just gone for Secretary of War. By those standards, Trump should have been in jail 30 years already. I mean, Pete Hegseth is the fucking Secretary of War. Did you by any chance listen to what FD Signifier said about Platner? He said he didn't understand why people like you were giving him so much spotlight and making him the face of the DSA is supposed to be. I never made him the face of the DSA. That's not true. And at most, I've made the faces of the DSA the actual faces of the DSA. What are you? That's not true. And I'm sure that that's not what FD Signifier said anyway. Anyway, it's a real knife fight for everyone to have a gotcha moment and a I told you so moment. For the fucking ultras, it's like, oh, well, you guys didn't see the real problems here. He was a war criminal baby eater. For the centrist Democrats, they obviously have their own personal opinions about his, his sloppyism, as they would like to call it. It's a sequence of some of the worst people that are going to be gloating.
Describe your relationship with Graham Platner as a very good example.
Dude, why is this? How come the Forbes videos always have this audio?
Of what modern dating is like.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that, I think there's a lot of situationships. I think people are dating multiple people at the same time, whether that's known or not known by the people involved. So it was just a very common practice is what I viewed it as.
And kind of casual.
Yeah, very casual.
And when did you meet him and how did you meet him?
Met him on Bumble, actually, in 2019. And I had known who he was. He grew up in the next town over. We had like a mutual family friend, so I always knew of.
I don't understand what's happening. I thought Platner was demolishing the polls. How does this change the calculation of the point of you saying it's over? Because he's running as a Democrat. If Graham Platner was running as a Republican, it wouldn't matter. No one would give a shit. But he's running as a Democrat, and he's running against a woman too. And there's plenty of older Mainers that are going to hear a credible rape accusation and go, oh, I'm not voting for this fucking guy. Okay? And that's what matters. If he's in the margins, it's over. And that's just from the perspective of cold analysis, not even making a moral judgment about someone who has a credible rape allegation running for office as a Democratic Party defender, as a Bernie crowd, as a left populist, as a progressive. Okay? The reality of the matter is Democrats don't like rapists, whereas Republicans love rapists. It's that simple, simply put. And even if there are plenty of Democratic voters who would say, well, he's my guy because he cares about the things that I care about. He's, I'm still going to vote for him. It's not going to be enough to carry him across the finish line. It feels very fitting that whenever Left FC goes all the way with the macho white man strat, it actually works out for a while. 2022 Fetterman doing great. Platner actually crushing it pre-allegations until it completely explodes and everyone dies forever. You can't be like, oh, damn, we were so close. We just got unlucky, because this is just the kind of stuff that happens when you run these kinds of outsiders. Maine voters will weigh the Trump Epstein against Platner. I'm sure they will stick with Platner. You're wrong. I don't think so. I think enough people in this coalition will drop out. And also and here's why it'll never work. Because the Democratic Party has already dropped its support. I noticed that the DSCC was already not showing Graham Platner even before this allegation. Okay? Do you understand? And without the DSCC, without like the institutional support, you have nothing. If you're going to rely on your progressive activist base, they're not going to fucking want a door knock for you because now they're door knocking for a rapist. If the DSCC doesn't actually fucking defend him, who does he have? He has no one. Do you understand? If you're an anti-establishment candidate and the forces within the party are not defending you as an anti-establishment candidate, you need to have your populist support. Brother, would love you are centering Platner a lot in this convo. I wonder why I'm doing that. Because we're talking about his fucking Senate run. Who am I supposed to center? I know it's a cool woke 1.0 for you to turn around and be like, well, why don't you center the victim in this conversation, which I have for like the last 3 hours. But at some point, we're going to have to conduct analysis about the fucking race. What do you mean? Go rewind and watch the conversation that took place about the victim if you want to hear that perspective. But at some point, I have to cover a different angle. It's insane. The DSCC will not invest in the main Senate race if Platner remains on the ballot. It's a fucking wrap. The DSCC was already looking for any reason to pull the ripcord out. And this is more than enough reason. It's such a valid reason that I'm in agreement with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's fucking over. They are pressuring him to drop out so that they can replace it. Hopefully, what? Okay, but you're not offering an immediate substitute solution with progressive policies. Even if you condemn Platner, you're unironically giving permission to his opponents. No, plenty of Dems in the Epstein files, by the way. Wait, what? I don't even know what point you were trying to make, man. I don't get it.
His existence, but that was when we actually met.
And what'd you think of him?
At first, I thought he was great. You know, he's very well spoken. He's intelligent. He's charming. You know, I thought a lot of good things. We had a great first date. It went and flowed really well.
He has described himself as self-medicating with alcohol.
Yeah.
He has described himself that way.
Yeah.
So I would think maybe that would have reared its head.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's something that I think a lot of people are desensitized to. In general, heavy drinking, and especially out of the relationship that I had just come out of. So it wasn't anything abnormal to me. I remember we were out one night and he was drinking, and that's when he told me that he has PTSD.
When the New York Times story came out, you were in it, but you didn't go as far in that story as you are today.
Yeah.
Why not?
I didn't want to. I didn't want to have to violate this huge level of privacy to my own life to be able to infer that this person is not honest and trustworthy. I felt really protective of my own privacy throughout this whole process. And it got to a point where my privacy was no longer going to happen. And that was when I kind of just made the decision that, like, I'm going to say my piece and get it out there. I had tried to give the impression that something, you know, worse happened. And that's when it was like, I refused to comment further.
You definitely alluded to a bad night.
Yeah.
So bad that you never saw him again afterwards.
Yeah.
But just to underline the point, you're not coming forward because you have any political motivation.
No, not at all. That was actually one of the huge reasons that I didn't come forward and still struggled. Like, that was a huge moral conflict to feel like.
Because you'd like a Democrat to be in the Senate.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the things that he speaks about. They're important. They're important to people. I'm one of those people.
But at the end of the day, you feel he's not being honest.
He's not being honest, no.
And we should note, this is 2021 we're talking about. It's only 5 years ago. Tell me about that. When was it?
It was at the end of 2021. I remember it being shortly after I moved back into my winter home, because that is where it happened. And it was a night where him and I were texting back and forth, and he had taken something that I said as an invitation. And that's not how I meant it, and I quickly clarified. And he sent a message back indicating that he would come over, and I said, no, don't come over. Like, I'm not in the mood, don't come over. And I was more stern with that message. And then I didn't hear back from him. So I thought that that meant he got the message or gave up on it or whatnot. And so like half an hour later, I heard a noise outside my door. And then he came in. He just came into my house. It was unlocked. I live in an area where you don't usually have to lock your doors. I do now. So he came in and I realized, okay, he didn't listen. He's in my home. And
Yeah, that's actually a crazy take. Things are so bad in the U.S. that she was going to vote for her rapist. That's how fucking insane American politics is right now, because that's the other side. That she literally was like, I probably shouldn't come out about my credible rape accusation and maybe even might vote for my rapist because at least he's not a child rapist like the fucking president allegedly could be. American politics is now a sequence of insane decisions where on the one hand, you're like, well, do I want my rapist in office? Well, maybe he's going to be in support of Medicare for all, and he's anti-Israel. Whereas the other side is also rapists, some of them defenders of child rape. So I guess we got to weigh the options, like which rape is the lesser evil? The lesser evil rape trolley problem. Which, by the way, ironically enough, if he was a fucking centrist establishment Democrat, the very same people that are doing victory laps right now would literally be sincerely telling you to vote for the lesser evil rapist. Just understand, that's the distinction between the left and people like fucking Neera Tanden who work for the Clintons, okay? That's the difference. They did this with Andrew Cuomo. They unironically looked at Zohran Mamdani and said, you got to vote for Andrew Cuomo, the cop rapist. What do you mean? Fast and free buses? Fuck no. He's Muslim. You got to vote for the cop rapist. Liberals will look at you dead in the eye and tell you this is a lesser evil rapist voter and then turn around and act all high and fucking mighty. A certain flavor of Dem moderate couldn't wait even a day before turning this woman's harrowing story of being assaulted by a partner into a cudgel against anyone left of Chris Coons. What does any of this have to do with Michigan? Yeah. They're nasty little perverted freaks, by the way. They're cynical monsters. Just remember that.
I was laying on the couch. It was probably pretty late at night, and I was already ready for bed. I just wasn't in bed. And so he had kind of like jumped on top of me and indicated that he had intentions that were sexual in nature. And I remember just at first being like, hey, I'm not into this. Like, I'm not in the mood. Like, don't, whatever. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like I've said this enough times. Like, he's not listening to me or he's not hearing me. And I looked at him and I remember this very specific look in his eyes. And I could smell alcohol and I was like, this is different. He is heavily intoxicated. Like, and that blank stare was kind of like a photographic memory that I still have of that night. And that was me recognizing what the situation was. And this wasn't just like, oh, hey, somebody showed up and I'm going to tell him to go home. Like, he was heavily intoxicated, had intentions with me, and wasn't listening when I said no. And
you were saying, no, don't, over and over.
I remember, obviously I've had to recall a lot of this. This is something that I tried for many years to forget. And so small details, might get past me. But yes, I remember very specifically saying, I'm not into this. In my message previously, I had told him I had had an old back injury. And I remember saying, like,
yeah, Neera has officially won. She's the world historic goat of shamelessness, absolutely untoppable, the Michael Jordan of her craft. Say what you will, but the establishment of Vets Canada is you worked for Bill Clinton. This Kush Bomb came out with a hot take. We interrupt your smugness orgy to remind that Janet Mills' stable, reliable, conventional, impeccable pedigree, college educated, got fucking stomped 72% in the primaries. The unstable, unvetted, that's your brand. It fucking sucks dick. It's true. God, people fucking hate the Democratic establishment. These guys only running victory laps like this is probably going to draw more enmity. It's just crazy that they're like, they think they have any leg to fucking stand on. I mean, yeah, Jake Tapper, this is his moment too. Fetterman calls Bernie to apologize. Oh, fuck you, John Fetterman. You fucking animal.
Like, I'm not in this. I've had a long day. My back hurts. Like I was in that kind of mood, like the leave me alone mood. And there was a little bit of like scuffle, like altercation. The house that I live in has like this antique sewing kit that I kept beside the couch, and that got knocked over. He like backed into it, or something was maybe pushed into it by me, or something happened in that moment, and that thing got spilled. And
do you remember pushing him away?
I remember potentially pushing away with my legs, like, and then as he backed into it, it spilt, and all of the sewing needles and tape and yarn and everything went everywhere. Everything had fallen onto the floor, and in that moment, I evaluated my safety. Like, a drunk person who's blackout drunk is in my home, has these intentions with me, has already caused this amount of destruction and not listening to me. And so I basically felt safe as just complying.
You normally use protection.
Yeah.
And this time he didn't.
No.
And you didn't want that.
No.
And he didn't care.
No, I don't think my words were falling on deaf ears or drunk ears.
And you were still saying, don't do this, or I'm not into this?
I remember specifically him like grabbing at my chest, and I like hit his hand and I said, don't touch me. And I remember that during the altercation
And
specifically.
then he kept going.
Yeah, and it was this weird mix of like coming in and out of, I don't think consciousness is the word, but like coming to and kind of falling back into that drunken, I don't know what I'm doing state. And yeah, and he would apologize in those moments and then go back to doing what he was doing.
So he was aware that he was doing something wrong
Yeah.
and saying sorry.
I feel like he was in moments.
Is there any way that he thought this was consensual, or no? Just because...
I don't believe that you can think that that scenario was consensual. You have to understand that wasn't, when somebody is repeatedly, when somebody in the middle of it says, don't touch me, like, that's obviously not consensual.
Especially if he's apologizing on occasion.
Yeah. And that next
Where did the ultras come in on this? Are they supporting Platner now that you aren't? No, the ultras are fucking running victory laps because they don't give a shit about anything. They're just like excited. Well, to be fair, they're correct at the end of the day. They were correct about his fucking Graham Platner red flags. Obviously, this was an unbelievable. Whether their analysis was based on, no, I'm good, thank you. Whether their analysis was based on, mischaracterizations or exaggerations, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, Graham Platner is credibly accused of rape. And these guys fucking hated him. Even if they landed on it because they hate every single veteran or whatever the fuck, it doesn't matter. They were right about Graham Platner. Their overemphasis on his red flags, or their hyper focus on, or their channeling of like Israeli propaganda at times doesn't mean anything, because it's the same as like Jake Tapper and all these other fucking dipshits. Now, their focus is directed at myself instead of like, people who actually campaigned or interviewed Platner or offered a lot more coverage to Platner, because that's more so just like the fuck us on tip, which is fine. I'll take it. I don't give a shit. At the end of the day, do I have any issues saying the truth about my assessment? I gave you what my skepticism was, and I will continue doing the same exact commentary as I have done so far. I'll tell you when there's certain things that I find to be red flags. And at the end of the day, I will leave it up to you to make the assessment on whether or not he's worthy of voting for if you live in Maine. If you ask me, is Graham Platner a better option than Susan Collins or than Janet Mills? Yeah, with the information that I had at the time, I would say that absolutely. Will you still interview Platner? Buddy, it was Platner that did not want the interview. Much respect to Chris Robb, FD Signifier, and Sean the Black.
So after everything ended, I ran to the bathroom, which is just beside my bedroom. And I was in there for a while and just trying to like comprehend things. Like,
Were you crying? Were you?
I honestly I don't think I was crying. I was like more in shock and yeah, just trying to understand like what had just happened. Especially like this is a person I have known and have trusted and have had very consensual relationships with, like, you know, all along until it wasn't. And so that was a really hard thing to understand, that this was a person I trusted. And so I spent a little bit of time in the bathroom, and when I came back out, he was asleep in my bed. And at that point, I didn't know what my options were. Like, obviously, I don't want this person in my house. And when I, you know, earlier had realized how drunk he was, I knew that he had driven over that way. Like, I'm surprised he made it to my house. And if I woke him up and sent him home, like, I am now making the decision to put somebody that drunk on the road. And
The echoes from their end, not mine.
I didn't want to live with the fact that, like, if he got into an accident or hurt somebody else. And I remember thinking that I could tell him to leave, and I could call the police immediately, and I could at least get him caught for drunk driving. So I was like, I'm going to let him sleep, and the second he wakes up, I'm going to tell him to leave. And so he slept. I lay there in like a state of panic all night, and I remember turning on, I have like one of those noise machines that you sleep with, and I turn it on ocean waves, and I'm like, I'll just try to meditate. It didn't work. So in the morning, he woke up and he went to go put his arm around me. And I was like, whoa. And realizing this person doesn't know that what happened wasn't okay. And so I remember taking his arm and throwing it back at him. And I said, are you fucking serious, Graham? And he's like, what? And I'm like, do you not remember what happened last night? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay. I need you to get dressed and leave and never talk to me again. Like, nothing that happened was okay. And he did. He just got up and got dressed and left and didn't seem concerned.
He didn't ask you.
He didn't ask me a single question. And I mean, in the moment, I was like not wanting to talk about it anyway, so maybe I felt fine about that in the moment. But like, I was still like, how can somebody that you've been in a, you know, some type of a relationship with for this long tells you to never speak to you again about something that you did, and you didn't even ask what you did. So he left. He didn't talk to me, and I waited a couple weeks because I knew that with what had happened, I could have gotten pregnant, and I wanted to wait and to make sure that that wasn't the case. And so I waited until that happened, and I sent him kind of like a final send-off message. And
What did it say?
I remember a few pieces of it, and I remember saying that like nothing that happened that night was okay or consensual. And I waited on Instagram. You see when it says seen, and so I gave it a couple days. It said that it was seen, and I still didn't hear back out. And at that point, I blocked him on everything. I deleted his number. I blocked and deleted his like text phone number as well, because text and Instagram are, I think, the two ways that we had communication. And I've never heard from him since.
He posted a comment on Reddit about a video promoting underwear designed to prevent rape. And he wrote, quote, "Rape is a real thing. If you're so worried about it to buy Kevlar underwear, you'd think you might not get blacked out, fucked up around people you aren't comfortable with."
Right.
What did you think when you saw that?
I thought, here's a man who was drunk and who, by dictionary definition, raped me, and he's blaming drunk women. So I just felt like that was a very odd take to have on that. And I also feel like with all of the comments that he made about women, sexual assault, rape, even, the comments that he had made that was in the New York Times article about, threatening people with rape, like, why does this person have this issue, like, scattered throughout their life, throughout their commentary, like it's on their mind? And why do they have such a strong opinion about women coming forward with allegations? Like, I just feel like this isn't the first time.
I know that you have been very reluctant to tell this story.
Yeah.
Very reluctant. Why did you ultimately decide to do it? Why come forward?
A few reasons. One of the biggest ones is that I think that there are a lot of men in this world relying on the silence of women and to be where they are. And I don't want to contribute to that. I also want to just get my life back.
There are going to be people, maybe even his campaign, certainly his supporters, who say this is politically motivated. What would you say to that?
I couldn't disagree more. That was actually one of the reasons that I didn't come out.
Because you agree with his politics.
I do. I really agree with his politics. I think we need somebody with those political stances and who are willing to do the work. And, I see his political videos. They get me fired up as well. I understand why people want someone like him in office. And I felt like me coming forward.
That's fucking insane. Like, think about it. Think about it. That's her rapist. And because his political perspective is such a breath of fresh air in comparison to what is normally fielded, that she's literally saying, like, my rapist, I seriously contemplated voting for him. This is what I was saying earlier. It's like lesser evil rapist is the choice people are being forced to make now.
Would essentially potentially take that away. And I felt really uncomfortable with the responsibility of and the weight of my story and what that might do.
When people hear this from you, are you saying you should not vote for him because of what happened?
I'm not going to go as far as to say that. I'm just here to tell my story, to give a clearer picture of who he is and the type of past that he has. And I just think it's fair to the democratic process to let people know who they're voting for.
This has obviously been very difficult for you to talk about for 5 years. And even when you're telling the story, you don't use the word.
Yeah.
So let me just be, and I apologize, let me be as direct as I can. Did Graham Platner rape you?
By definition, yes. Absolutely.
Because he had non-consensual sex with you?
Yeah.
Forced himself on you? Even after you had told him no and fought him off?
Yeah. He violated multiple layers of consent that night by coming into my home when I asked him not to, and by advancing on me when I told him not to, and furthermore, another incident that I had told him not to do. And
with protection.
Yeah. So, yeah. By the way that my nervous system reacted to this experience, absolutely.
There are going to be Democrats who say, I believe you, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for him anyway. Because we need a progressive voice.
Jake, oh my God. Brother, a little bit of fucking care and consideration for a rape victim. Holy shit. God damn. Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. Like this is your moment to be like, fuck this anti-Zionist guy, fuck this guy who's critical of Israel. But Jesus Christ. No tact, dude. No care or consideration to be like, hey, a lot of people are gonna fucking yell at you, by the way, just so you know. I've seen the way you ask sensitive questions to people. It's wild to me that people like Jake are considered journalists while you're not. I mean, it's fucking nuts, dude.
The United States Senate. Are you going to be okay with that? Are you going to be able to handle that? I'm not saying it's the right answer or the right response, but...
No.
That's crazy.
Oh, I have friends who feel that way. And that's been a hard pill to swallow. And I guess I need to not ask, potentially. Maybe I need to not ask in order to not care what they do. I understand. I understand that the state of our political environment is so much so that we need a lot of change. And he's offering that change. And, you know, I'm not mad at anyone who has voted for him all along. If he wasn't who he was, I would be voting for him as well. And going forward, I don't know what's going to happen.
There's something you said that I just want to find out more about. You said he was forcing himself on you. It was getting violent. You were pushing him off. You were kicking him off. Needles and sewing equipment was falling all over. And walk us through the process where you decided that the safest thing you could do was just...
Am I being crazy, or is this not very sensitive at all? Like the way he's dealing with this very delicate and very traumatic situation. Am I... Like they should have got... I mean, not to be the super woke here, but they probably should have gotten a woman to maybe handle this line of questioning. Even Dana Bash would do a better job than Jake, and she's just as pro-Israel as Jake is. It's kind of it's like unbelievably insensitive the way he's like walking through these questions is not delicate at all. He's like, yeah, a lot of people are still going to vote for this guy. How does that make you feel? Huh? Here are all of the visual graphic details of your worst night ever that took place. I'm going to walk you through it again. Platner might not drop because of internal polls. Graham Platner has not made a decision on whether to drop out according to a person. Yeah, those internal polls are going to look like fucking dog water after this media cycle ends.
Let him rape you.
Yeah, I had never been in that situation before. And I remember it being an instant where I had recognized that he wasn't listening to me. It wasn't just that he wasn't hearing me or whatnot. And then I recognized his level of intoxication. And I knew in that moment I wasn't safe. And I don't think I was safe to physically fight back. He's big, he's strong. And I just had to evaluate my safety and come up with the least worst outcome to this situation. And so I felt like complying for my safety was the least worst option.
But that's not consenting.
No, complying is not consenting.
Complying is letting him rape you.
Is getting it over with.
Oh my God! Oh my God, Jake Tapper! Oh my God! I have never seen a rape victim be interviewed in such a gross manner. What the fuck? Holy shit, dude. This is like this is shit that should be taught in journalism school of what not to do ever. I can't tell if he's like trying to actively get tears out of her or something. Like, I don't. Yeah, with an interview like this, you'd think Jake was a Platner surrogate. Like, the way he's fucking. Like, I know his perspective, right? I know his perspective, so I know that he's not trying to attack her. But the way that he is questioning her literally almost comes across like he is a Platner surrogate trying to attack her. And I assume the reason why he's doing it is because he's clip-baiting so fucking hard. He wants a clip so bad that he's getting immensely more invasive than he should be. And he's framing these questions in the grossest way I've ever heard a male journalist handle the topic of straightforward sexual assault, just straightforward rape.
So that he didn't hurt you even more?
I don't know what this person is capable of. I don't think anybody does. And even people you know for years and trust, you don't know the depths of what they're capable of. And
You were afraid for your safety.
yeah, I was afraid for my safety.
Beyond, not that rape isn't a horrific thing, but beyond
Right.
rape.
I didn't want to find out how.
Yes, he's a combat veteran, man. A drunk combat veteran who broke into her fucking house. Like, what the fuck? I guess he's just trying to get her to say, like, yes, I was scared for my life. But it is actually incredible. It is actually incredible that the words "you let him rape you" came out of his fucking mouth. Like, am I too woke? I don't know, man. Am I being too woke here? I feel like this is unacceptable. Like, he dropped it twice, not once. This is going to sound crazy, but I think he's trying to make Platner sound worse. Yeah, I mean, he's already maximum bad. But it's just crazy that, like, there's a center called DART that teaches trauma-informed journalism. This is going against everything they stand for. Yeah. Anyway, this is not going to go anywhere, obviously. No one is ever going to fucking criticize Jake Tapper's horrifying interview, the way that he's, like, so unbelievably invasive. His career is set, especially after the Ellison purchase. But if you're a rape victim and you see this interview, you're probably gonna be like, I don't want to fucking come out. That's nuts. I mean, even if you don't care about the individual that you're doing this like invasive line of questioning on and potentially re-traumatizing, this is literally like a warning sign to virtually every potential rape victim to never say anything, because she's handling it with a lot more grace and a lot better than most people would. Certainly I would. But a lot of other people that see this are most likely not going to see the same takeaway. They're going to think, what the fuck? Horrible.
Unsafe I could get that night, or how harmed I could be that night.
I know this is probably one of the toughest things you've had to do in your life, so I just want to thank you for trusting us and sitting down with us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you guys being here to do this and to help share these stories very kindly and delicately.
Okay, if you say so. Definitely not very delicately and kindly. Very different assessment I got out of that. All right, let's see what the rest of the CNN
net
is.
gain of 4 seats to go from the minority party to the majority party in the United States Senate. And
Yeah, so someone just said, I'm a sexual assault survivor, just how police question you about it. And I don't mean that as a compliment. Yeah.
Collins, the Republican incumbent, is the only Republican running for re-election in a state that Kamala Harris won in 2024. So this is supposed to be one of the top-tier targets to have Democrats start making their build towards the potential 4 flips that they would need as a net gain to win the majority. Without Maine, if Susan Collins is to win re-election here, this becomes a much, much tougher climb for Democrats to win the majority.
David Jellian, thanks very much. Just ahead, what our political team.
If Platner drops out, a well-placed source inside the main Democratic Party is considering running a second state convention, nominating delegates, and having the delegates elect the new Democratic Senate candidate. Got hit with a BE beam. Yeah, it's like such a crazy moment to say this, by the way, especially considering that it's like, this is like, I mean, not even the bad empanada. The DSA is cooking right now. Like, Graham Platner is not a DSA affiliated candidate at all. I didn't go out and personally endorse Graham Platner. I didn't go out to like campaign with him. There are candidates that I do campaign with, right? And you know them. You know the candidates I campaign with. You see them on the broadcast. I never fundraised for him. They wouldn't even grant me an interview, to be fair, which I wanted to early on. After they saw some of my scrutiny, they shied away from it. I talked about it. They're still going to say he's a DSA candidate regardless. Yeah, Platner's not endorsed or affiliated with the DSA. The main chapter of DSA independently recommended him as a part of their June 9th voter guide, but that is after Mills suspended her campaign and it notably held him at decent arm's length. If you were to say, you have defended the principle of saying that not all vets are fucking baby killers or we should be treating them in the same way, then yeah, I still defend those principles. If you were to say, I don't like that you said that Graham Platner is a better candidate than Janet Mills or Susan Collins, then yeah, no, I disagree with that assessment as well. Given the information that we had at the time, and clearly for the perspective of the Mainers, he was that candidate. So what the fuck do you want me to do? Lie to you? I'm not going to do that. I don't know what Bernie's going to do. I don't know if he's going to rescind his endorsement. I assume he will, but who knows?
In the detail she has and the way that she has and is making it up. I mean, her statements are completely credible, and it is incumbent on everyone to believe what she is saying, and it is incumbent on Graham Platner to get out of this race immediately, and then I hope he is prosecuted to the fullest extent of the Maine law.
And Alyssa, based on what you've seen, do you think the response so far to this is markedly different than previous?
It is markedly different. You know, a number of prominent Democrats have asked for him to step aside, but I want to know why. I knew the first accuser, who did not accuse him of sexual assault, but of domestic violence that came forward in the New York Times. She was a longtime GOP operative. She's somebody I've worked with, but that does not make her allegations any less credible. I don't know why that wasn't the line. I don't know why the Nazi tattoo wasn't. I don't know why demeaning Purple Heart recipients, homophobic slurs, racist and bigoted slurs on his Reddit posts weren't enough. When politics becomes winning at all costs, we end up with the worst people in office. And I think this is what we are running into. Democrats did not do their due diligence in vetting this man. And now their path to the Senate looks significantly bleaker because they went all in on this man.
Which people had raised that concern about the vetting. The flip side of it is, you know, if you want candidates who are quote unquote authentic,
He went to an elite prep school, but kind of masquerades as a working man. Like, this isn't even that authentic of a guy. This is what I think, and I've seen it happen on the right to some degree. This is what happens when the base of a party sometimes takes over the establishment and they want to burn it to the ground. This is a man who's dabbled in anti-Semitic tropes. He has gone. I struggle to find things to defend him at this point, yet most of the establishment stood beside him. And Democrats, one of their strongest arguments they want to make going into the midterms is it's about character, it's anti-corruption, it's about getting the Epstein files out. When you're standing by a man who's been accused of these things, you can't make that case as credibly.
Scott, if Platner does decide to step aside, do you think the Maine Democratic Party will be able to nominate someone new without alienating former Platner supporters? How do you see it?
Well, that's a great question, because it's something that Alyssa said. I agree, by the way, with everything Alyssa said. She raised all the correct issues and said this is what they had signed on to. The only thing I disagree with is when she said that he hadn't been vetted. No, he had been vetted. All of the things that have been stated, it was all out in the public. And people like Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Tim Walz, the Bulwark, Pod Save America, all these people came together to overlook it all, to explain it all, to rationalize it all. He was vetted. People knew all these things. And a whole bunch of Democrats in Maine showed up and voted for him anyway. And a bunch of donors from around the country sent him money anyway. I agree with Alyssa's question. What changed? Why are you bailing on Graham Platner now? You already signed off on Nazi tattoo, a self-described communist, somebody who's had rape fantasies, somebody who has been on a social media platform known as a playground for predators, and on and on and on and on and on. And the difference between this accuser and the previous one is simply this. She's a liberal. It's okay, I guess, for Democrats that their candidates assault conservatives. But he broke into someone's house and apparently, according to her, raped her. And because her politics are correct, they can now believe it. All of this whole thing is disgusting. But to say that they hadn't vetted him or that they didn't know about all this is totally false. They knew it and they signed up for it. And I don't know why they're backing away from this scumbag today when they had already signed off on all that other crazy behavior.
Christine, what do you say to that?
I mean, look, there's not a lot to defend in this scenario in Maine right now. You know, I'd like to think that they didn't do a good vetting, right? I'd like to think that folks didn't know all of this in the way that Scott said, that things came out as revelations as it moved forward. You know, the kind of looking back on this very, very soon, I hope will give us the answers to that question
I
about
hate this piece
whether
of shit.
there was vetting and how deep
Scott
it was.
Jennings.
But, you know,
You're a Trump supporter, man. You're a Trump supporter. You're a fucking Trump supporter. What are you talking about? Oh my God, I can't believe he did a rape. Like, what do you, oh, really? I can't believe you support Trump. The fuck do you mean? You're an Epstein affiliate defender. The fuck is this bullshit? Yeah, calls for Platner to drop from Schumer, Gillibrand, Warren, Slotkin, Kelly, Booker, Schiff, Ro Khanna, Gallego, Markey, DSCC, Vote Vets, and Citizens United, Senate Majority PAC. Everyone's calling for him to drop out. Platner aid list items, list terms for dropping out. If he was to step down, it would only be a guarantee of being replaced by a candidate who he believes is the true values and vision and policy agenda the campaign Maine voted for. Oh no, people are going to say he's in no position to make these, oh God, I hope the fucking, I mean, I know what he's trying to do and I don't disagree with this. I think it's the right thing to do. It's the Democratic thing to do. But it's just the DNC is going to fucking use this as an opportunity to be like, fuck you. You don't get to have a say on here. You're a rapist. Oh, no. Dems are going to do everything in their fucking power to make sure that there isn't a fucking anti-Zionist in that position, a pro-Medicare for all guy in that position. There's no shot. Some context regarding this. The ambitious corner-cutting Bernie crap political strategists cracking up when asked how they vetted Platner have a history of unprincipled, reckless rush recruitment and campaigning, the dangers of left sloppyism. Yeah, I don't care about left sloppyism, okay? I don't know how these guys found Graham Platner. Like, I think that there were plenty of fucking red flags, including the chest tattoo, that should have been enough for them to see, because it was on his Instagram page. What is this? I've been telling you to stop putting all of our eggs in one basket. Whose eggs? What basket? Who are you guys talking to? You're making it seem like Graham Platner was the fucking president of the Democratic Socialists of America or something. What is this? Where are the eggs and what is the fucking basket, dude? Who is this? Is this bait? Oh my God, he was literally baiting. He literally was baiting. Hasan, I've been telling you for weeks that it was a bad idea to put all of our eggs in the basket of someone like Platner. Chatters don't even know that even though there are no ads at the top of the hour, they can still subscribe for $5 or for free. God damn it. There are so many blue-collar progressives out there. There was really no need to settle on this guy. okay, guys, I need you to understand something. You get a fucking combat vet with that background. This is, there's a likelihood that this could happen. Okay. Not to say all combat vets are like this, right? But yeah, you get a guy who's not, who hasn't like spent every waking moments at the age of 7 running for president. And yes, of course, I just didn't think it would be this fucking bad. It sucks because, yes, Platner's progressivism should not be usurped by establishment Dems handpicking the nominee, but I also think it's a real stain for him to handpick as a replacement. Whoever replaces him should stay away from any association with Platner with a 1,000-foot pole, which is going to be hard while retaining the progressivism. There's something really funny about this, by the way. There's people going like, has Hasan endorsed a communist yet? And it's like, dog, brother, do you think this is now officially going to make the American Communist Party the most viable alternative at a time when a non-DSA affiliated candidate who's a left populist has been outed as a rapist that has nothing to do with the DSA at all? Like, what does that have to do with what we have been doing? What does that have to do with what we've been doing? Republicans are just going to lie? I know. Kevin McCarthy on Platner allegations. That one thing I know about Republicans is when we had a very bad candidate, we didn't vote for that person. We walked away. He was a host on the network you're currently speaking at. Like, what planet are these fucking guys on, dude? Anyone with anything to lose and no incentive to be honest will just quit. That's why the truth matters. It takes forever, apparently. Yeah. Dennis Hastert is the longest running Speaker of the House, and he was a out and about pedophile. Prolific pedophile. Like, we can't, the pedo games is not, it only goes in one way. It only goes in one direction, and it's the Republican grand old pedophile party. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Troy Jackson is someone who has spent his life standing up for these progressive values. The movement is about standing for Medicare for all, opposing foreign wars, and getting money out of politics. Wokeism on CNN.
This idea that it's far left for us to have some form.
Hold on. I'm not in the mood for that right now. Yeah, it's all pedo rapist admin. It's fucking nuts that they're doing this.
Currency, as you probably have heard, President Trump raked in 630.
Yeah, and the fucking administration. The administration is so corrupt, so unbelievably fucking corrupt, dude. I hate this shit so much. Ay, ay, ay. DSA posted about it. DSA did not post about it. Socialist news media did. And I don't know who this campaign or this account belongs to, but the main DSA supported Troy Jackson's campaign for governor. If Platner drops out, we have the opportunity to elect the new DSA senator out of nowhere. I mean, he's not wrong. Abdul also weighed in. Yes, he said, credible allegations of sexual assault cannot be ignored. Voters in Maine deserve a choice for U.S. Senate that doesn't force them to make a moral compromise between sexual violence and corporate servitude. Anyway, calls mom for Platner to end campaign after rape accusation. Graham Platner, a Democratic nominee for Senate for Maine, said he was taking time to reflect on his political path forward as his support was swiftly eroded after a woman accused him of rape. In a video posted on social media, Platner called the account false, even as he acknowledged the threat it posed to his candidacy in a tight race that could determine the control of the Senate in November. Regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward. It was not immediately clear whether Mr. Platner intended to continue his campaign against Senator Susan Collins, a Maine Republican. He has until July 13th to withdraw from the race, and if he does, the state Democratic Party has until July 27th to replace him on the ticket, according to Maine state law. The leadership of the state party urged him to where is it? The leadership of the state party urged him to withdraw. Both parties see Maine as a key to battle control of the Senate. The prominent Democrats withdrew their endorsements after the allegations surfaced. Senate Democratic campaign arm, which had opposed Platner in the primary, called for him to quit the race. Graham Platner needs to immediately withdraw. The fact that the source here is even throwing out a if he were to step down hypothetical is proof that it is already over and it's just a matter of posturing for the Troy Jackson handoff. Yeah. Any chance it's all fake? No. Dude. In order for this to be a fake allegation, this random lady would have had to have hooked up with a random guy in 2021 and would have literally backpocketed a false accusation of rape from 2021 against a fucking random oyster fisherman, PTSD having combat veteran. Okay? With the hopes of maybe one day, and told her friends at the time, told her therapist, with the hopes that one day that oyster fisherman could fucking run for office, become a nationally prominent campaign that would hold the entire Senate majority in his candidacy, and that she would be like, finally, my time is now. I'm going to reveal this information right before the fucking deadline, right before the deadline to swap out a candidate. That is fucking insane. Like, that's not real. That just doesn't happen. Okay. That's insane. That's an insane world to exist in. Of course, that's not what happened. Lol, I hate to be the proof guy, but damn, you're popping off on allegations with no proof. What do you mean proof? I just gave you the proof. In order for an allegation to be credible, you have to look at conversations that person has potentially had with others in that same time frame. This is a random guy at this point in 2021. Yes, and her therapist. What the fuck are you talking about? I like Troy Jackson and would prefer he be the candidate, but there are at least 3 distinct possible weaknesses for him. 1, he's not an outsider who's been in state politics since 2002. Over a decade ago, he was anti-gay marriage and anti-choice when Susan Collins was pro both. He campaigned closely with Platner. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. Yeah, Republicans hate Grant Platner for assaulting an adult. Okay, that's kind of dark, but it's true. It's kind of dark, but it's also true. That's probably the reason why they're so mad. You severely underestimate the pedophilic elite that run your country? No, dude, that's not real. That's not, like, that's impossible. In order for these accusations to be not credible, okay, she would have had to concoct a private correspondence, like whip up a private correspondence with a second person, okay, that she has no evidence for, which, as far as I understand, she does, okay, or that Politico specifically clip-chipped the conversation where she literally says, she literally straight up says he's consensually ambiguous or whatever, right? And there would have been no conversation with her therapist at all back at that point, but only recently did she reveal to her therapist that, like, this was a real incident or something. It's just like all of the information, consensually careless is what she said. Didn't the therapist not comment? There are like 4 people who aren't coming forward to back up her story. Why are they not backing up her publicly? The therapist is probably not trying to fucking come out on a nationally significant story, especially because it's a violation of like, the therapist might not be comfortable. The therapist might not be comfortable speaking on her, on the things that she revealed to him. Yeah, you're forgetting that she told a third person that she dated after Platner, and that third person also corroborated that aspect of Politico. Exactly. They would have to literally, they would have to have concocted, like, they would have had to like coach her and find a third party to say yes to it. Like, it's an impossible scenario. It's an unbelievably sophisticated psyop that is virtually impossible. The much more likely outcome is that this is a credible accusation of rape. No, it's not. Yes, it is. There are contemporaneous documents from a therapist and text message conversations with third parties. What are you talking about? it's getting to the point where this is like a Charlie Kirk was assassinated by Israel style situation for some people. How come this only works one way? Why can't the Dems be like Republicans and say the goal is to get rid of the Republicans, just plow through this? Great question. They have done that. And they will continue doing that, just not for Graham Platner, because Graham Platner was someone that they wanted to get rid of regardless. So he doesn't even have the DSCC backing. They have done that. I mean, Bill Clinton, right? And they've done that with the Biden accusations. Now, credible or not, doesn't matter. They were just they plowed through it. It didn't matter for them. It's not like they made a significant assessment on whether or not Tara Reid was valid or credible. They just were like, no, shut the fuck up. They did that for Cuomo. Cuomo plowed through it. So that only works in one direction. It doesn't work in the opposite direction. And to be honest, I don't think it should work in the opposite direction. Okay? Yeah, at bare minimum, contemporaneous conversations about alleged rape is enough to establish probable cause to charge someone for rape. Maine, I believe, has a 20-year statute for it, too. So Graham Platner has a lot bigger issues to worry about than just just dropping out of this fucking race. He could literally be charged with rape, criminally charged with rape. Okay, which should happen for the record. That's fucking ridiculous. So, yeah, anyone who's subject to that should be instantly disqualified from political office, full stop, is you know. Like the Occam's razor, you know, what's the likely scenario here that like a random woman and a random man, an oyster farmer, oyster fisherman, fucking, you know, Blackwater mercenary, got together and had a night of consensual sex, and then the woman decided, ooh, one day he might fucking run for office, and I'll just like lie about it. In 2021, years prior to any sort of investment whatsoever into Graham Platner running for office. Yeah. For this to be a false accusation, she would have had to have a slander campaign 3 years ago, which was not a public figure, which is insane. Yeah. Or, like I said, there would need to be like literally fake information. Like it's a real consensual relationship, but then like there are faked contemporaneous conversations and second and third party accounts. Like that's an unbelievable level of investment. It's just like it's criminal in and of itself. Like that would be the most sophisticated smear campaign that has ever existed. It's like easier to fucking probably, you know, incapacitate someone in other ways than to do that. It's not likely at all. I don't understand why the New York Times screwed up their story. They obviously weren't trying to catch and kill lawyers' incompetence, even if she didn't tell the New York Times. I think, and there will definitely be more coverage on that element as well. Like, how did the New York Times fuck this up? Will absolutely be part of the coverage. But I think the reason why she didn't want to come out was twofold. One, she didn't want to say that she was raped. And two, she did not want to be she did not want to say that she was raped, and she also did not want what do you call it? She probably didn't want to fuck up his chances, as damning as that seems, as like devastating of a reality as that is. I believe it when she says like I agreed with his politics, and I genuinely, it like weighed on me because the fate of the Democratic majority in the Senate hangs on my shoulders. That like, you know, she says she prepared to vote for him.
Graham Platner had told a story about himself that some folks were willing to believe, about a story of growth, a story that comes even, I think, and they were willing to believe it over the troubling signs that Andrew reported, that women had come out and said before. Yeah. This is a new, I think, new piece of information that is serious, that's corroborated, and I think has had the justified reaction to it. I don't expect Graham Platner to last through the week, and I think that him saying, they're kind of like, we built this grassroots base of volunteers, those are the very same people who feel quite lied to right now. Like, those are people he said that there wouldn't be more stuff coming out to. So I think that that's actually a critical, that's actually a critical piece of this, is that not just that the DSCC's changed their mind, or maybe some people who didn't want him to win the race originally don't like him anymore. That volunteer base that was driving that interest is turning on him. And I think that's really going to be the most damning part of this. But, I to the point about kind of outsider candidates, even take Zohran Mamdani in New York. That's someone who had been an assembly member, who had gone through some levels of vetting, who is actually, I think, doing fine now because he had thought about a vision of governance. When you kind of pick folks out of nowhere, you risk something like this.
How do you address those who rightfully are upset that no push to dropout was being made, with even with the knowledge of his Blackwater history and joyful killing of brown people? I don't know how many different ways that I can say this, and I have talked about this before. My own considerations about his Blackwater mercenary status was something that I openly revealed, openly talked about, but it was not relevant in the grand scheme of things in the eyes of Mainers, right? And I kept repeatedly explaining this over and over again. And unfortunately, people just did not care to understand what I was saying. I'm sorry. Our considerations or our concerns, maybe you were a lot more loud about them than I was, because I would still then package that up with, he's a far better candidate, even with that background, than Susan Collins, who voted for these wars, and also better than Janet Mills, who was, again, pro-Israel and most likely going to lose to Susan Collins. Like you could have been loud and proud about it, but clearly Mainers did not hear your voice. And my skepticism or scrutiny would not change that reality. And that's why we debated the same old issue 1,000 times over. Do you understand? I hope someone clips this for Twitter, because my God, the amount of people asking about this today. It doesn't matter. Those people are not asking this question because this is a serious, he's an insider media guy. People did care, but nobody reported it. No. Graham Platner is not an insider media guy. What are you talking about? They fucking ate his ass up a million ways to Sunday, even before this credible accusation of rape. I'm telling you right now. No. Americans, by and large, do not consider veterans, especially combat veterans, to be baby killers in the way that a handful of select few anti-imperialists do. Okay? They just see it as more of the same. When they think of Blackwater, they don't think, oh my God, he volunteered to join a private defense contractor that had to change his name a million times because they kept doing war crimes. They think, oh, it's the same old shit. He's just a grunt. He's just a vet. He's an American hero. Okay. That's what Americans think. Now, is this the correct assessment? No, it's not. But your assessment is also not correct, with the exception of Blackwater. If you're automatically assuming that every single veteran is irredeemable, every single veteran is an irredeemable monster, then I will debate you on that issue over and over again, which, again, is where people clip me and then will cry about how I'm defending Graham Platner. That's usually the conversation. On principle, as far as having a blanket assessment that every single veteran is an irredeemable war criminal monster that murdered children, that's not, you can't operate like that. That's not a normal way to exist. And that's not how I have been ever in my life, and I will never be that way, and I will never, ever say things like that. Okay? Also, no one is being honest with his military record. I'm also concerned about how it reflects on his judgment and character, but people are talking like he's a perpetrator of torture at Abu Ghraib when he had a patrol in the area for Blackwater. He did embassy security. We can be honest while being critical. Yes. The more damning side of that was not what he did for Blackwater. The more damning side of that was the fact that he volunteered to go and work for Blackwater after Blackwater had changed his name a million times over. Most people didn't say most veterans, but one, come on, dude. You think Bad Empanada doesn't think all veterans? Are you fucking insane? Bad Empanada and his ilk don't even say most veterans. They say all veterans, every single one. Doesn't even matter if they were on like support staff duty. What are you talking about? Let's live in reality, please. Okay? Let's live in fucking reality. That's crazy. The idea that he's a dumbass, okay, where the fuck do you think most of this shit is coming from? Who do you think is clipping old things? Who do you think is using this moment? Who do you think is using this very moment to do the exact same thing that Epstein does? Okay? Bad Empanada doesn't like Adam Hamawi. Okay? Adam Hamawi risked his life to save the children of Gaza. What the fuck has Bad Empanada ever done in his goddamn life other than chirp? Get the fuck out of here. His own audience and the dumbasses in his community literally think they don't know any better. They think like, oh, they sincerely ask me, how many anti-Zionists have actually signed off on an arms embargo to Israel? I was like, every single person, as a matter of fact. Every single person that I've actually campaigned with have done that. But you wouldn't know that because Bad Empanada doesn't give a shit about the fucking truth. In his world, I hand-selected Graham Platner because I loved that he was in Blackwater. My assessment on this has always been consistent, okay? My attitude on this is that everyone is a victim of their social conditioning. Everyone is a victim of their material realities to a certain degree. If you grow up in America, hopped up on American exceptionalist fumes, and the attitude overall, no matter how incorrect, is that you join the military to fucking save people's lives, whatever the fuck, okay? Then most people don't have the same assessment as you do, so they get duped into believing that they're actually going to go and find an adventure for themselves. And a lot of people in that process either become bloodthirsty monsters or they are horrified by the actions that they see around them and get the fuck out of the military and become lifelong advocates against American imperialism. Okay? If you don't give people the opportunity to, reconsider their perspective, and you just assume that everyone has to start with the same starting point that you started off as, then it's delusional. You're never going to be able to fucking build a massive enough coalition. How is Hasan more down to earth than Chatters? Because I've lived an actual fucking life. I didn't just like spawn as an 18-year-old content creator. Troy Jackson says, there's no place in our politics for sexual violence, not in our party, not in any party. Graham Platner must withdraw from this race today. This is not what we stand for, not as Democrats, not as Mainers, not as human beings. For too long, women who survive sexual violence have been told to stay quiet, to protect the men who hurt them, to think about the campaign, the party, the cause. We cannot ask women who trust us with their futures while looking the other way when one of our own hurts them. That's the end there. I believe Jenny Rasico. Yeah. Two things can be true at the same time, by the way. If Graham Platner was a fucking ultra-Zionist, this story would have been caught and killed. Okay? Even if it did came out. K-File. Dang, he lost Mike from PA. Previously said Mossad was responsible for my first Reddit story. For the record, I believe the story to be 100% true, but do you think this will heighten the contradictions because our president was literally found liable for sexual assault and the media has let it go along with numerous other Republicans and Democrats? For some people, yes. For most people that we focus on here in our little bubble, the commentariat, the Democratic Party consultants and whatnot, no, they just are using this as a great opportunity to the great opportunity to rip on the left populist flank, DSA, and numerous other people. They're fucking yelling at Abdul El-Sayed already. Reporting on Troy for Senate. Just got off the phone with former state Senate President, gubernatorial candidate Troy Jackson, a strong ally of Platner's with some of the same labor support that helped Platner's rise. Call sexual assault allegation very serious. If Platner steps aside, he is very, very interested. This is a very serious allegation, but I haven't talked to Graham, he said. This is something I've never considered. But if Graham's stepping away, I am very, very interested, and I think I'm the best person to replace him. Jackson said he'd received dozens of calls and messages of support, which began while he was fishing with his father earlier this afternoon. Said he received 6 more messages over the course of our 3-minute phone call. This is very fast moving. He said, never seen anything like it. What if Platner ran on no more guilty than the president? Come on, man. I do wonder if there will be some Platner dead enders. The commentary and political Twitter response has been overwhelmingly pro dropout, but his Instagram and Facebook comments, which are much more normie, are still backing him. No, that's precisely the reason why it has to be a left populist that replaces him. Okay? That's precisely the reason why. Because if it's not like Graham Platner style candidate without the fucking red flags and the rape allegation, people are going to be like, fuck no, I'm not voting for anybody. It's over. And I need Democrats to understand that. A lot of people in Maine loved Graham Platner for that reason. Not because he was a Blackwater mercenary, not because he was a fucking soldier, not because of any of that shit. They loved what he represented. So you need to absolutely captivate the same populist energy. Okay? And if you think this is your opportunity, Democrats, to put forward Pills Mafia, Janet Mills, who is the fucking governor of the state, and she lost by insane margins to Graham Platner and had to drop out already in this primary. If you think that this is an opportunity to fucking slam in a cookie cutter neoliberal, or even someone who is a moderately progressive candidate, you are wrong. We will lose the Senate majority. So either you're hopefully planning on losing Maine and moving on to the rest of the map, which is impossible, okay? No Pinos, no Dinos. You have to go with a real left populist. A real left populist, or we're going to fucking lose this race and we're going to lose the majority, okay? You got to have someone who is as anti-Israel as Platner is. You got to have someone who's pro-Medicare for all, Bernie back. That's why Troy Jackson seems like a perfect substitute, because here's the situation. This is not a they go low, we go lower type situation. No, it's not. Listen to me. The Senate majority is profoundly important, okay? It's profoundly important to make sure that there is some semblance, a crumb of accountability, a gumming up of the works of the Trump administration's bouldering towards fascism, okay? It's unbelievably important. Unbelievably important, and you have to unseat Susan Collins. Susan Collins is a very weak candidate. This is the weakest she's ever been. She's Teflon Don every other cycle. Right now, this is the weakest she's ever been. Okay? There are going to be a lot of fucking people. There are going to be a lot of people out there who, judging by the Facebook comments, judging by the Instagram comments, not the Twitter ones, where we're all in line because all the fucking annoying bicoastal libs, myself included, are on Twitter. But judging by the anger that people feel, they are going to want a substitute that is similar without the rape allegations. That substitute seems to me to be Troy Jackson. If the DNC tries to put a hand-selected candidate from Chuck Schumer after the unbelievable victory that they received, the whopping that they got from Graham Platner, in spite of his fucking red flags, I'm telling you right now, there will be a lot of people that go, fuck this, I'm out. They are not going to make this calculation that you're making. They're not going to make this calculation that I'm making. Harm reduction narratives are not going to work to carry a hand-selected establishment Democrat across the finish line. There is far too much populist rage in Maine. So much so that they straight up voted for Graham Platner regardless of the red flags ahead of time, okay? And they voted in large numbers. I am very worried.
Tomorrow's news today.